Tonight, another chapter begins. Politicians all vying to be next in the halls of power of Manitoba's iconic legislative building, where our province has been shaped for more than a century. Who will lead their party into power? For the last month, they've made their pitches to voters.
Staff up our healthcare system and build new ERs.
The plan to grow our economy.
It's a real choice for real change.
They've taken their shots.
Why are you so intent to keep violent criminals on the streets?
I've never seen a leader betray his following more than the NDP.
Your cuts have led to tragic consequences for Manitobans.
And now you made the decision. Is a Tory three-peat in the cards? Will Liberal Red take on more power in our province?
You can stop both the NDP and the PCs by voting Manitoba Liberal.
Or will the voters say hello?
How do you do? I'm Wab Kinew.
To a new leader and put Manitoba's NDP at the helm once again. The polls have closed, the votes are in. Who will call this building and this office home for the next 4 years? Decision Manitoba starts now. Welcome to Decision Manitoba 2023, our Global News province-wide election coverage. I'm Lisa Dutton. We're coming to you live, and it's great to have you joining us on all platforms tonight. The polls have just closed, and as soon as data becomes available to us, we'll be bringing it to you. If you're watching on TV, you'll notice to the right of your screen results from each individual riding. They're going to be cycling through. We also have a running seat count. It will show you the total number of seats a party is either leading or elected in. And remember, each party is looking to get to 29 seats, the number needed for a majority. And for our listeners on 680 CJOB, we'll be calling out those numbers for you often as they come in. We have reporters at all of the major party headquarters tonight to help us set the scene as results start to come in. We will check in with them in just a few moments. But first, joining me at the desk tonight as we navigate through the results are 680 CJOB's Loren McNabb and Richard Cloutier. Richard, let's start with you. What are you going to be watching tonight?
Well, we had an incredible turnout in the advance polls of over 200,000 as of just a couple of minutes ago. So far, voting today, 266,273 Manitobans have voted. And there are lineups at least a half dozen polling stations. They remain open. If you're in line, they remain open until everyone has actually voted. And Loren, no matter what happens tonight, it's an historic night ahead.
Well, how many nights do you get to start where you know it's going to end up as one for the record books, right? Like perhaps we'll learn soon enough that we've elected our first female Premier of Manitoba. We could learn that we're making headlines right across this country for electing our first First Nations Premier. And of course, there's the Liberals. They're not talking about seizing power. They're just talking about maybe having a balance of power in a tight finish. Maybe they get a say with a couple of seats. And so I think it's going to be quite the night.
No shortage of things to talk about. And we also have Global News Chief Political Correspondent David Akin with us in our Winnipeg studio all night. David, you have a great tool beside you that will really help us paint a picture as the results start to come in geographically.
Exactly. And Lisa, let's remind people that there are no results yet. Polls have closed. No one will have results quicker than we will here at Global News on CJOB, online, Amazon. We're everywhere. What I've got behind me is the electoral map of 2023. There's no results, so we have no colors in. No results yet. But let's go back and take a look at 2019. 4 years ago, 4 years ago might not have been such an exciting night because the Brian Pallister PCs were on their way to cruising to another majority victory. I don't think anybody saw anything other than that coming. But I want to take a look in Winnipeg. Here is the 2019 map for Winnipeg. Once again, this is the 2019 map. And I've been talking about this all week, that if the NDP, in fact, are going to win tonight, they are going to have to break through what I'm calling the blue wall of cabinet ministers, and let me explain. Let's start up here in Radisson. James Teitzma is up there. He is trying to defend. We go to Southdale, and that's where Audrey Gordon, the health minister, is trying to win again, but the NDP think they can knock her off. We go down to Lajamodiere, another cabinet minister. Seine River, another cabinet minister. Here, there we are in Riel. That's where Rochelle Squires, cabinet minister, is trying to win tonight. Fort Richmond, Sarah Guillemard was a cabinet minister. She's not running tonight, but that's another part of this blue wall. all. Here we go here, one there, one there. That, of course, will give 2 because that's Heather Stefanson's riding of Tuxedo. I think Kirkfield Park, that's Kevin Klein. He might be vulnerable, and up there in Assiniboia. Blue wall of cabinet ministers. They have to be defeated if Wab Kinew and the NDP are going to win tonight. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Heather Stefanson's cabinet ministers have got to lose tonight, but if they hold, then Stefanson remains the premier. Back to you guys.
All right, David Akin, thank you. Let's check in with our reporters now, who again are live at all the major party headquarters tonight. Let's start off with our Kevin Hirschfield, who is with the Progressive Conservative Party.
Yes, down here at PC headquarters, where 4 years ago there was a big party in 2019 when they won a second majority government led by Brian Pallister. 4 years later, they're certainly set up for another party. We got thunder sticks and balloons and a lot of blue and white behind us, but it's going to be more of a fight with Heather Stefanson as their leader. Of course, we know the motto, the tagline, fighting for Manitobans. We've heard it all through this campaign, but the last few weeks, those attack ads have really been a big story, focusing on NDP leader Wab Kinew and his candidates, and of course, focusing on very controversial issues such as parental rights and the landfill search. Let's bring in Hal Anderson. And Hal, coming into tonight, the numbers are against the PCs. We know Heather Stefanson's approval rating. We know the polls are in favor of the NDP. Yeah. Just some initial thoughts. What are you looking forward to here tonight?
Well, listen, I couldn't help when we came through Canada in Fort Garry here tonight, and the old celebration sign was above the door. I thought, will we have a celebration here tonight? I would call the room cautiously optimistic. We'll see how it goes.
We were told optimistic, and yes, we're at the Celebrations Dinner Theater. And just quickly, if Heather Stefanson is voted in tonight, she will become the first elected woman premier in Manitoba. The NDP will try to prevent that from happening, though. And let's find Marnie Blunt at their headquarters now. Marnie.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Pretty much at the strike of 8 o'clock, people started piling into the NDP headquarters here at the Fort Garry Hotel, and there's a lot of energy already in the room. The polls were favoring leader Wab Kinew, and if he wins, it would be historic, making him the first First Nations premier, not only in Manitoba, but also out of all the Canadian provinces. So energy suddenly picking up here really quick. Greg, what are you looking for tonight?
Well, this is a pivotal election. Manitoba is at a crossroads. I think we would all agree upon that. Juggling several crises in our city of Winnipeg and across the province of Manitoba. And of course, 11 is the magic number in terms of getting to 29 versus the previous election for the NDP. And I guess the question in this room, was healthcare the issue to hang the political hat and future of the NDP upon in this province?
And I guess we'll find out in a little bit of time. And now we're going to send it over to the Liberal headquarters, and that's where we find Global's Rosanna Hempel and 680 CJOB's Julie Buckingham.
Thanks, Marnie. Well, the energy is picking up here at the Norwood Hotel in St. Boniface, where incumbent Dougald Lamont is, of course, hoping to keep his seat tonight. I haven't spotted the Manitoba Liberal leader yet tonight, but I have seen some candidates trickle in here already. Now, Julie, just outside the doors here, you know, we're seeing a mix of orange and red. So what other ridings are you keeping an eye on tonight?
Well, one that David Akin mentioned, and that is Southdale. And while it seems like a two-person fight between the NDP candidate and the incumbent Health Minister Audrey Gordon, the Liberal candidate in that riding, Robert Falcon-Ouellette, is extremely well known. He is in the room already, smiling, shaking hands, putting up some signs, and it would be interesting to find out if Dougald Lamont's message that you do not have to hold your nose and vote for another party, that being the NDP, in order to get change. We'll have to see if Southdale residents decided to say, you know what, we're going to throw our support behind Robert Falcon-Ouellette. So that is going to be one area that I'm going to watch tonight.
So we'll see whether that turns out to be a celebration here. We'll throw it back to the studio.
All right, thanks. Now from inside the Manitoba legislature, let's take a look at how we got here. Defending their place on the government benches, the Progressive Conservatives in blue headed into this election with 35 seats at dissolution. The New Democrats in orange with 18 seats. The Liberals in red held just 3 seats at dissolution, and 1 seat was vacant. In total, 57. But on this night, the count starts at 0, and the slate is wiped clean. We're expecting a tight race between the Tories and the NDP. But some of the key issues have Manitobans divided. There are concerns around affordability, healthcare, and crime. Addictions, homelessness, and housing are also top of mind. And as always, billions of your tax dollars promised for their solutions. And while promises can go a long way, so too does personality. Heather Stefanson, Manitoba's first female premier, but consistently low in the polls and winning her own party's leadership race by just a slim margin. Wab Kinew poised to be the province's first First Nations premier. But will his checkered past cause him peril at the polls? And now, with 6 years at the helm of the Manitoba Liberals, Dougald Lamont offers a consistent alternative to voters, confident his small party can play a vital role in Manitoba's future. Now, let's take a look at some of the key ridings we'll be watching throughout the night. David?
Thanks, Lisa. Great piece looking back at how we got here. And I just want to let people know you're listening on CJOB, you're watching on global television. There are no results in yet. No riding has reported anything. We're waiting for Elections Manitoba to tell us what's up. We got a direct pipeline. As soon as we have anything, we'll get it on screen. Now, we talked about how we got here, and this is the electoral map from 2019. Let's maybe talk about how the math works for the New Democrats. I talked about that blue wall of cabinet ministers. I've got a riding prediction tool. I can flip some ridings right now. Here's where we finished last time. 36 for the PCs, 18 for the NDP. So how does the math get us? 29 is the magic number. PCs have to hold that or the NDP won. I mentioned Radisson might flip. We'll put that in the orange column. There's Southdale. That's Audrey Gordon. Maybe that flips orange. Lajimodiere, it's going to be a tough fight for the NDP to take it, but I'll put that in the orange column. Same thing with Seine River. Might be a little bit much to think it's going to go orange. Riel goes orange. It's often gone with the government of the day. Fort Richmond goes. I'm going to keep Waverley blue. That's John Reyes' riding, the Labour minister. Let's keep that blue, although I'm hearing some things about there may be a tremor in the force in Waverley. Fort White, Aubicon, I think Fort White probably stays blue. Heather Stefanson's riding of Tuxedo stays blue, but let's turn Kirkfield Park orange. Let's turn Assiniboia orange and see where we're at. Oh, 28 for the PCs and 26 for the NDP. But as we said, one of the key things here tonight is New Democrats appealing to people who voted Liberal 4 years ago. You got to vote NDP. Well, Wab Kinew has been making that case right there in Dougald Lamont's riding of St. Boniface, and he's been there 3 times in this campaign. Let's put that one in the orange column. And then up here in McPhillips, it was the closest race last time. The PCs won by 80 votes. Shannon Martin, he's not running this time, but 1,500 people voted Liberal. Those Liberals come over in McPhillips, and now that is an orange riding. And what's the score now? 28-27 for the PCs. That's the kind of math that is going to make Wab Kinew the first First Nations person to be a premier in any Canadian province. I haven't even talked about outside the city. We're going to keep an eye on Brandon East, could go New Democrat. Dauphin could go New Democrat. And these two up here in the Northeast as well. Also New Democrat targets that could push the NDP totals up higher. But that's the math at the end of the night. Back to you, Lisa.
All right, David Aiken, thank you. A record turnout to advanced polls. Did you guys hit the advanced polls? Because we're seeing lineups right now.
I saw the advanced polls at the outlet malls. I thought they were fantastic. I like to vote on voting today and went out, and it was busy, but wasn't too complicated. But Richard, we're hearing a little bit different out there.
I voted midday today, and it was slow, but picking up very much so in the last hour and a half. And Lisa, there are lineups at some polls.
That's right. We're going to show you a shot right now. We have 680 CJOB's Skylar Peters. He is out, kind of our roving reporter tonight. And Skylar, right now, there's a bit of a lineup to get into that polling station. Where are you at?
Yeah, not you. Hopefully not you. Could be worse state for it.
Maybe Skylar can't hear us quite yet. Elections Manitoba also dealing with some new technology this year that could factor into it. It did prove to be a pro and a con in other provinces.
Well, in Alberta, there were delays after some initial numbers coming in. There were all sorts of delays. In other provinces, it worked very, very well. They want to get this right. And in about half a dozen ridings, we're looking at waits of 15 to half an hour. Those polls do not close until that point as well. But as we go throughout the evening here, one of the numbers I'm looking for, Loren, is that Liberal popular vote. If it is below 10% in Winnipeg, those votes generally will go to the New Democrats. And as the blue wall, as David was describing, that blue wall can fall. When those numbers are below 10 for the Liberals, they're above, the PCs have a fighting chance.
Again, we're in that territory right now where we would be getting results in. We'd like to see some results in, or maybe we will be a little bit different depending on how the night goes with the technology. As you mentioned, tabulators taking your ballot this time, scanning it. In some cases that took seconds, in some cases that took minutes, depending on who we were talking to, Lisa. But right now the score is 0 because we have no results in. So there's no results in for any of the ridings as it stands right now. And so it's 0-0 game.
You bet. Again, right along the bottom of the screen, that is where candidates are either leading or elected. Marnie Blunt is at NDP headquarters tonight, along with 680 CJOB's Greg Mackling. And you said the second 8 o'clock hit, it was already hopping in there.
Gonna pop over in just a bit.
Yeah, it's already a lot of energy in here. People are packing in. People are quite excited about what could be the outcome tonight. Of course, NDP was favored in the polls. And joining me to talk a little bit more about this right now is NDP candidate Uzoma Azaguera, who's the candidate for Union Station. Thanks so much for joining us today. Now, obviously, the theme of your campaign was healthcare, healthcare, healthcare. When you were out talking to residents in your riding, is that what you were hearing? What were their concerns?
Absolutely. The number one issue that I heard and our team heard leading up to the election and during the election is healthcare. It's the number one issue for Manitobans, which is why we've made that our focus during the campaign.
Now, we also, of course, saw in recent weeks the Progressive Conservatives launching quite an aggressive campaign against the Manitoba NDP, including Leader Wab Kinew and other MLAs as well. Do you have any concerns that that is going to have an impact at the polls tonight?
You know, I think Manitobans have made it clear that they want leadership that prioritizes the needs of Manitobans, which is why our team focused on healthcare. You know, the PCs focused on trying to divide Manitobans, and our team, led by Wab Kinew, was focused on bringing Manitobans together. And we know, and I heard it on the doors, that Manitobans were inspired by that, and so hopefully we see that reflected in the results tonight.
All right, Marnie Blunt, we are going to pause you there, Marnie. Thank you so much. All right, thanks for that. We have our first results, which we want to get to you right away. Right now, the NDP party leading in 10 ridings, the Progressive Conservatives 3.
Yeah, and so if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that there. We'll keep you updated on where those votes are coming in because, of course, these are their first results here at 8:18 in the night. And as we look, you know, they're coming in places like Brandon East has, you know, just 4 votes coming in there. We've got them trickling in from Burroughs. We've got them trickling in from Fort Garry, where the NDP have an incumbent. Fort White, the first results in. But perhaps we could take a look at what David Akin has to say.
Well, and I want to point out, too, to the side of our screen here where you're going to see each riding cycle through. You can see at the very top the number of polls reporting. So this is very early in the evening. Along the bottom here, this is leading or elected. So at this point in the evening, it's safe to say leading the NDP in 11 ridings, the PCs and 5. And Richard, you're getting word of some issues with the Elections Manitoba website?
Yeah, there was some website issues, but the results are coming fast and furious. David Akin, 11-5 right now, NDP over the PCs.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at where these leading results are. That's very important. That's why we want to say we know that the race is in Winnipeg, and though it's early, listen, if you're the New Democrats, you'd rather be up 11-5 than down 11-5. And right now, every single riding result we have in Winnipeg is a lead for the New Democrats. There's a lot of ridings where we don't have any results, but there's no riding in Winnipeg where the PCs are leading, and that includes Fort White. Right now, Fort White, Trudy Schroeder, it's early, but she's got a 7-vote lead on Abi Khan. 1 poll reporting, as Lisa mentioned, keep an eye on that. That's Fort White. You don't see the NDP leading in Fort White very often. It's happening now. We mentioned the Blue Wall of Ministers. Kirkfield Park, Kevin Klein is the incumbent. He is behind Logan Oxenham. Logan Oxenham with a 71-vote lead. We have 2 polls reporting in Kirkfield Park. That's going to be a close one all night long. We're looking at Rossmere, not a riding with a minister, but a riding that has traditionally been New Democrat when New Democrats win government. Right now, Tracy Schmidt, she's a lawyer. She's 50 votes up on the incumbent, Andrew Macklefield, in Rossmere with 2 polls reporting. The only place where right now we have the first Liberal lead of the night, I'll quickly take you to that. That is in the riding of River Heights, where I don't think anybody thinks John Gerard's going to get unseated. John Gerard, the former Liberal leader, 15-vote lead over the New Democrat, Mike Mraz, 2 polls reporting. So as we look at the bottom right now, early lead for the New Democrats, 10 leading seats, 6 for the PCs, 1 for the Liberals. But again, in Winnipeg, that battleground right now looking very early good for the New Democrats.
All right, David Akin, thank you. We heard Marnie talking about the NDP campaigning strongly and consistently on healthcare. And are we going to PC party headquarters? Let's toss it down there. All right, Kevin Hirschfield and Hal Anderson. I'm going to send it over to you guys.
Yeah, so some results coming in here early. Wouldn't say there was much of a reaction here. Still some chatter amongst the crowd. We do know it's early, but as David said, those early results not favorable for the PCs. No. We're seeing a number of cabinet ministers in Winnipeg down early. Hal, just some thoughts on what you saw. Kevin Klein, Abi Khan amongst a few trailing here.
Very few numbers in. It's early. I think we have to emphasize that. I think that's the operative word. It's early. But the pollsters would tell us late in the campaign that change may be in the air. And based on these early numbers, it looks like maybe there may be change in Manitoba. We'll have to wait and see. We got to wait for every vote to be counted. And sort of interesting, PC campaign manager Marnie Larkin told us earlier that they were expecting some delays in the results because of weather today and some other issues. So we're getting some, I think, some pretty early numbers quickly, but we may have to wait for all the numbers to come in tonight.
We do hope to have Marnie Larkin, who Hal was talking about it, in just a bit. But Hal, you were taking a boatload of calls on your show over the last few days in the lead up to the election. What were some of the things specifically you heard about the PC campaign, maybe that folks had to say?
Yeah, well, listen, I think over the past week or 10 days, the ads the PCs put out about the landfill search, I'll be honest with you, the calls and text messages and emails that I took, just as many said that solidified their vote for the Tories as much as it sent them to the NDP. We'll have to see how that plays out.
We'll be back here throughout the night at PCA headquarters. Not the start the PCs wanted, but we do know it is early. Back to you guys.
All right, Kevin Hirschfield, Hal Anderson, thanks for that. Let's take a look at these numbers, guys. More results coming in. The NDP leading or elected in 12 ridings right now.
Yeah, we have the PC sitting at 7, leading in 7, and the Liberals at 1. As David was referencing, that's in River Heights. That's John Gerard's riding. But if we look at where some of this movement is happening, and you're going to hear us go back and forth with these numbers for a bit because they sort of flip and flop a little. But if we look at the riding of Kirkfield Park, for example, it was a tight race in that by-election. That's in the west end of Winnipeg, where Kevin Klein, the incumbent, is trying to hang on to his seat. Well, right now we have the NDP leading, Richard. That's one of the examples of the many seats we've been talking about that the NDP have had before, are looking to take back. We only have 4 of 27 polls reporting, so I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But that's a perfect example.
Logan Oxenham for the NDP has a 133 vote lead. But as we go through the minutes ahead, this is where Elections Manitoba said we would start to get a lot of quick results. The NDP now ahead in 12, the PCs 8, the Liberals in 1. This is all kind of unfolding as we expected, with battleground Winnipeg more orange at this point than blue.
And you are going to see those numbers fluctuate as that lead goes back and forth. For now, again, NDP, PC 8, Liberals 1. We're going to take you to break. We have more results, an election call, and lots of reactions still ahead. It's going to be a long night. Stay with us. Welcome back to Global News Decision Manitoba. We're coming to you live on all of our platforms tonight. Of course, TV, 680 CJOB, and online. A quick roundup of the numbers. The NDP leading in 16 ridings, the Progressive Conservatives 7, the Liberals 1. So let's take a look at where those close races are this hour, starting off with Burrows. Are we going through that, or are we going to David Akin? We know you can talk, David.
David looks ready. David looks ready to go.
No, let me go outside the city right now because we want to talk about what's going on. First of all, let's go way up to Flin Flon. Right now in Flin Flon, it's kind of like, as our friend Richard told me, he tipped me after this, the Flin Flon Bombers are running it up. 79 votes for Tom Lindsay versus 217 for 113 in Flin Flon. So the NDP are leading in Flin Flon. One I want to look at is right here, Swan River. That might be a switch where there, right now, Andy Maxwell of the NDP has a 145 vote lead over Rick Wowchuk. Get this, 147 votes to 2 votes. That's a Flin-Flon bomber game, if you ask me. But there's just one poll reporting, so everybody in Swan River, hold on a second. Maybe it was just Andy Maxwell's neighborhood. His neighbors got out and they all voted for him. We're also going to take a look down as we get in the southeast. Riding Mountain, Greg Nesbitt, Conservative, 103 vote lead. That is likely to go to the PCs. That's PC Heartland. Same thing, Cabinet Minister Doyle Panook down there in Turtle Mountain is leading right now over the Keystone Party. Look at that. Keystone Party in second place in Turtle Mountain. The PCs look to win, but the Keystone Party taking some votes right now early, just two polls reporting so far there. We want to take a look as well at Interlake Gimli. I know some New Democrats thought this riding might be in play, and it may well be. We only have one poll reporting. Derek Johnson, Progressive Conservative, Cabinet Minister, Agriculture, with a 24-vote lead right now over Sarah Pinson-Berdarson, and that's again with just one poll reporting in Interlake Gimli. So, any change outside Winnipeg? Right now, yes, it's right here in Swan River. We'll keep an eye on that. Of course, one poll reporting very early. Things can get up and down. But as we remember, 29 is that magic number for a majority. Right now, the NDP are leading in 20, and the PCs are leading in 8, and the Liberals just 1. Lisa.
Thanks, David. And you'll remember the NDP came into tonight with 18.
Yeah, that's where they left things off 4 weeks ago, Richard, and now they're leading in 20 to PCs at 8. We want to stress it's really early right now, but this is exactly if the NDP, or this is their slow path to victory right now. This is what they're aiming for.
They need to flip 11 seats overall to get to that magic number. And one of the indicators here will be the popular vote, Lisa, as far as whether those Liberal numbers are above or below the 10 mark. So I'll be very interested to see how that unfolds in the minutes ahead.
And I understand we can take a look at that leading elected popular vote right now. No, we are going... There we go. Okay, we are actually going to take it down to NDP headquarters with Global's Marnie Blunt and 680 CJOB's Greg Mackley.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. As the results are slowly coming in, we're hearing more and more cheers behind us, and the energy is just really picking up, as you can hear right there, really picking up already here, right, Greg?
Yeah, I think there's a quiet confidence. It's less quiet at times, of course. And look, I'm the hockey guy. These are shots on goal right now. These aren't goals until seats are won. But obviously, when you're leading in a vast majority of the numbers that are coming in right now, you're feeling pretty good. This is maybe the first period. We might be halfway through the first period, and the orange team has more shots on goal than the blue team, and definitely more shots on goal than the red team. And you're feeling a quiet confidence starting to build in this room without question.
Now, I was hoping that Greg Mackling would give us a sports analogy, so if you're not into politics...
That won't be the last one, I promise.
All right, well, we're looking forward to more of those. With that, I'll send it back to you, Lisa.
All right, Marnie, Greg, thanks for that. I know he loves the hockey and football analogies. My question is he going to get Taylor Swift into it at some point tonight?
I think somewhere he's saying challenge accepted.
I think so. Okay, gains and losses. Let's fire this up and take a look, guys.
So at dissolution, the NDP had, right now they had, no, that's not correct. We had leading or elected in 21. Right now this is from...
So at dissolution, the NDP had 18.
Yes.
The Progressive Conservatives had 35 rather.
35, yeah.
The Liberals had 3. So what's happening now, the gains and the losses, the NDP are at that plus 11 point right now. The PCs have lost 9. Now, the New Democrats, as far as the popular vote is concerned, at 40%, that's Manitoba-wide, PC at 37.7. But that can be deceptive because some of the key rural ridings aren't coming in yet.
The numbers are coming in quite quickly. The NDP leading or elected in 21 ridings, the PCs 10. Were you expecting this?
Yeah, I actually was expecting this early, especially where those votes are coming in right now in vote-rich Winnipeg. But we still don't have Tuxedo. Loren, interestingly enough, in St. Boniface, there the NDP are ahead. Robert Loisel, 7.1% of the vote coming in. Loiselle has a 71-vote lead over Dougald Lamont, the Liberal leader. No results yet from Heather Stefanson's riding in Tuxedo, but yeah, I did expect this to come in very quickly. We'll see where this goes as the Progressive Conservative vote comes in from rural Manitoba.
No results in Tyndall Park, where, of course, we have another Liberal running because the Liberals have moved back down to leading in 0. River Heights is down. There, John Gerard is down from there. He was up, and now he's back down below the NDP. And, of course, you mentioned St. Boniface, the NDP candidate's beating the leader right now. Early days, though.
Yeah, as we just mentioned, Dougald Lamont, the Liberal leader, is losing in his riding right now. So we're going to take it down to Liberal headquarters, where Rosanna Hempel is standing by with 680 CJOB's Julie Buck.
Still a lot of excited chatter here. Julie, what do you make of these early results? Lamont trailing and Gerard also now trailing.
Yeah, when we first saw the results come in that showed that John Gerard, who was a one-time leader of this party, was leading, there was a nice round of applause. And just within the last 30 seconds to a minute, we saw that riding flip orange. So that is definitely going to be something to watch. He's a long-standing Liberal. He's held that riding for many, many years. So we'll have to keep watching on that. As far as Robert Loiselle is concerned, we do know that he's got long-standing roots in St. Boniface, Métis descent, right? A teacher as well. So it is early, and we'll have to see if the Liberal leader spent enough time in his own riding to maintain his seat.
Yeah, we'll see if it's a disappointment in this room tonight. We'll throw it back to the studio.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
All right, Rosanna Hempel, Julie Buckingham. It's a buzz in here. Lots going down.
We're trying to keep up, and we're going back and forth with David. We're trying to figure out where the gains and losses
are leading in 25, the Progressive Conservatives in 11, the Liberals in 1. It's only John Gerard for the Liberals that's leading, and the NDP, Battleground Winnipeg, so far it is a sea of orange.
Remember, that number we're looking for is 29. We have the NDP leading at 25.
All right, David Aiken with more on the emerging trends and what it all means.
So I'm looking at the current electoral map of Winnipeg behind me. Where do we remember right now NDP are leading or elected in 25? Well, Concordia has not reported. Concordia is probably going to go NDP. You'd think about that. Burroughs Notre Dame has not reported any results. That's probably another NDP win. So 1, 2. Oh, look at that. Fort Rouge hasn't reported. That's Wab Kinew's writing. 1, 2, 3. Now we'd be at NDP 28. We are getting to the point where the NDP must be feeling pretty good about things. I'm going to put an X on the ridings in Winnipeg that have moved to the NDP column. We start with Ross. Make sure we got the X working. Thank you, X. We start with Ross. There we are, Rossmere right there. Kildonan River East has moved into the NDP column. The big one is St. Boniface. Dougald Lamont in the NDP column. River Heights moving from Liberal to NDP. There, we talked about Radisson moving. There's Southdale moving. Riel is moving to the NDP column. Fort Richmond to the NDP column. Seine River to the NDP column. And Kirkfield Park to the NDP column. Am I missing something that hasn't moved? That's a pretty good night so far for the NDP, leading or elected in 25, but 1, 2, 3 surefire NDP seats, Fort Rouge, Concordia, and Notre Dame, have not reported any results yet. I mean, you'd think they're going to go NDP by the end of the night. So 25 for the NDP, on the way to that magic number of 29 for a majority. Conservatives right now just have 11 on the board, and the Liberals back to 1. But that's just that's Cindy Lamoureux up there in Tyndall Park. The Lamoureux name, will it carry Cindy on through up in the Northeast? We'll see.
All right, we're going to take a look at outside of Winnipeg and who is leading. Let's round it up, guys, starting with Brandon East.
Okay, so we have the NDP looking to take back a riding that was theirs for years before the Conservatives took it in 2016. So Glenn Simard up over Len Eastlifson. Just 4 votes there.
Very tight there. The exact opposite in Flin Flon. Well, the NDP, 61.1% of the vote for Tom Lindsay over Charlotte Lacroix. This is an interesting race.
Swan River, I had this on my playbook, or card.
Not
whatever
this
you want
big,
to call
not
it. Maybe
this
not
big,
by this
Lorette.
big, but Swan River, we have the NDP ahead right now by 124 votes over the PC's Rick Wochuk. Again, just a handful of polls reporting. Lisa?
In Thompson, Eric Redhead, the NDP incumbent, with a 92-vote lead over the PC's Linda Marcus. All right, Marnie Blunt is at NDP headquarters, and optimism has to be building down there, Marnie.
It is, yeah, there is a big feeling of optimism here, Lisa. A lot of energy as more and more people are coming in and the results are coming in. And joining me right now is Adrian Sella, who's the NDP candidate for St. James and the incumbent. A lot of energy in here, as we mentioned. How are you feeling about things right now?
Really good. You can feel the energy in the room is great. People are excited. We're seeing some good results come in early here, and we're hoping that momentum will continue into the night.
And of course, 18 seats last time. We're already seeing NDP leading in above 18. How confident are you really in that?
Still really early in the night. Every vote counts, every seat counts. So we're going to hold on here, see how the night shapes up. But again, it's feeling good. You can feel the energy here is positive. And we hope that, Manitobans are ready for change, and I think we're starting to see that here.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time, and best of luck to you today.
Thanks very much.
And again, more energy building here, and we'll bring you more in a little bit. I'll send it back to you, Lisa.
All right, Marnie, thank you. The NDP leading or elected in 25 ridings, the PC's 13, the Liberals 1. Guys, let's take a look at the popular vote here in Winnipeg versus the rest of the province. Let's start with Winnipeg.
Battleground Winnipeg, the New Democrats at just under 50%, 49.3%. This is consistent with the polling, even above the polling. The Progressive Conservatives just under 32%. That's an interesting number and may early in the evening reflect John Gerard. It may also reflect Cindy Lamoureux, but that's a number that is a bit surprising. But outside the city of Winnipeg, that's the number there.
51% for the Conservatives, 38% for the New Democrats. Other leading outside of Winnipeg at 6%. And of course, Liberals at 3.6%. And again, as you referenced, Richard, because it's early hours, the popular vote will shift potentially.
It will. And again, the PC popular vote in rural Manitoba, it's because they win big in those southwestern and southeastern ridings. But so far, the story tonight, very early on, is still Battleground Winnipeg, those southern Winnipeg ridings switching so far leading for the New Democrats.
The New Democrats leading or elected in 25 ridings, the PC's 13, the Liberals 1. We're going to take you to break here on Global Winnipeg and 680 CJOB. Lots more to come. You're watching Decision Manitoba. Welcome back to Decision Manitoba on Global News and 680 CJOB. I'm Lisa Dutton here with Loren McNabb, Richard Cloutier, and Global News Chief Political Correspondent tonight, David Aiken. We want to take a quick roundup of the numbers. The NDP leading or elected in 25 ridings, the PC's 14, the Liberals 1. And here's a look, guys, at where some ministers are trailing right now.
No surprise that this is tight, because this is pretty much how this race went down in Kirkfield Park in the by-election between the exact same two candidates. Right now we have NDP's Logan Oxenham up ahead over Kevin Klein by 186 votes. Richard?
Mike Moyes ahead in Riel for the NDP over Rochelle Squires, the family's minister. It's tight. It's only a lead of 3.
In Seine River, Billy Cross, she's up 129 votes right now over Janice Morley-Lecomte. That's your progressive conservative incumbent there. And in Radisson, Jaylyn Dela Cruz, who we talked about earlier this week, campaigned very hard. She is leading about 100 votes over James Teitzman this hour.
And again, these are all ministers that are losing in their seats. James Teitzman's the consumer minister, and then you have John Reyes in Waverley. This one is only a difference of 79 votes, but John Reyes currently losing to the NDP candidate, and Waverley came in late in the game as one of the ones where we thought, okay, this could be tight.
All right.
Look, and the Liberal vote, interesting in some of these ridings, is above that 10% mark, which is a little different as far as those votes are concerned. It would be a lot more for the NDP.
Wonder what's going down at PC headquarters right now. Let's check in with Kevin Hirschfield for more there. Kev?
Yes, thanks, Lisa. We're still waiting for that big cheer here. We haven't got it yet tonight. Joined now by Marnie Larkin, who is the campaign chair for the PCs. Marnie, thanks for joining us. I know it's such a busy time for you here right now. Let's start with a reaction to these results. Just what are you seeing right now? How are you reacting to these results so far?
Well, there's not enough in to really react. We're really optimistic about things. We definitely ID'd enough vote to win tonight, so it's all a matter of did we get them all out and who had the better ground game. So that's where we are right now.
Let's talk about the ground game. What did you guys hear at the doors on the ground, that led you to make what your campaign ended up being? What did you hear on the ground?
Affordability. It's all about affordability. I know that our opposition tried to make it about one particular issue, but we were hearing consistently everywhere that affordability is the number one issue. When Manitobans need help, we got to give them a helping hand, and so that's what we focused on very heavily.
One thing our viewers and listeners at 680 CJB talked about a lot was the advertisements you guys put out. Parental rights, the landfill search standing firm were some of the main ones. Can you just tell Manitobans why you chose to go that way and choose to focus on those topics? Because they were very hot topics amongst our listeners and viewers.
I think it's what Manitobans are wanting. So when we talk about parental rights, 30 years ago, parental rights were established in Manitoba. And since that time, we've needed to update those rights, right? So we've got cell phones and we've got bullying and a number of things that are happening. So it's just about getting to a position where parents who love their children very much get to have more of a say in their lives. So we're very confident about that and feeling good about it. And in relation to the landfill, I think it was really important for our leader to show that even in the face of very difficult, painful decisions, she could make them on behalf of Manitobans. We're investing in things like homelessness, like addictions, recovery, all those things. Those are the things that are going to make the difference in the end, and we think that that's where that money should be headed.
All right, Marnie Larkin, thank you so much for taking the time with us. Let's throw it back to you, Lisa.
All right, Kevin, thank you. Richard, reaction to that interview?
Well, two things. One, the reason why they're talking parental rights is over in Turtle Mountain, where the Keystone Party is number two in the running there. And it's a tight race there. They anticipated that the extreme right would give them a bit of a run in some of these rural areas. And as far as that path to victory, well, if things change in the next half an hour to 45 minutes, maybe that explains it. But so far tonight, that path to victory that Larkin outlined there is just not materializing.
And you just have to wonder, when she talked about they had the votes marked but not getting them out, I don't know if that's true. I'm wondering at this point what drew people in versus what turned them off, Lisa.
The NDP leading were elected in 25 ridings, the PC's 14, the Liberals 1. The numbers are rolling in, but there are some ridings, David Akin, where we have zero results right now.
We do, and every election, we get our results directly from the Elections Authority, Elections Manitoba in this case, and we seem to have hit a bit of a point where we haven't had results at all, and how far into the evening we are, about an hour or something like that, 45 minutes. We have no results, for example, for Kiiwetinoong. Who do you think wins this riding? Well, the NDP's won it since the 1960s. I'm pretty sure Kiiwetinoong is going NDP. Federally, that's Nikki Ashton's riding. The NDP likely winning there. And if you're looking at the bottom, or I'll let folks who are listening on the radio know, the NDP right now are leading or elected in 25. Kiiwetinoong's going to go in their column. There's to 26. We don't have any results yet for, let me jump on it. We don't have any results for the Pakamisik. That's where Amanda Laughlin is the new Democrat incumbent. Once again, this is a riding that has been NDP since the 1960s. You're going to put that in the NDP column. And now they're leading or elected in 26. So 27, 28. Remember, 29 is the magic number, folks. Right now, we've got a change sort of down there. That is in Agassiz, is it? My goodness, it just might be. In Agassiz, which is, this is where Eileen Clark, the former minister, was running, the former Indigenous and Reconciliation Minister. Right now, the new Democrat, Danica Wiggins, has a 54-vote lead over Jody Byram, the Progressive Conservative. Jody was Clark's constituency assistant, but right now we're putting that's a surprise, Agassiz in the NDP column. We talk Keystone Party, guys. You want to kick this around? Is Keystone Party taking away votes from the Progressive Conservatives, allowing the new Democrat to come up the middle? If this holds, that is going to be the story of the Keystone Party's effect in Agassiz tonight.
All right, David Akin, thank you. Marnie Blunt is at NDP headquarters tonight, along with 680 CJOB's Greg Mackling. Before we get to them, a quick roundup of the numbers. The NDP leading or elected in 26 ridings, the PC 17, the Liberals 1. And with that, Marnie, Greg, a pile of people gathering behind you.
Yeah, Lisa, it's a packed house, and it's also packed with a lot of positive energy. We're hearing a lot of cheering, and we're also seeing a lot of different types of NDP supporters coming in. We're seeing lots of different union shirts and big crowd here showing their support for the NDP.
And there's a long lineup at the bar. Surprise, surprise. The two candidates that they have declared elected in this room, Jamie Moses in St. Patel, Mark Wasloo in Fort Garry. So of course, we could argue that the first points are on the board for the NDP, at least in terms of what they're seeing here and calling in this room. So the energy is really starting to pick up. And of course, everybody knows it's still early. And until that number is actually called, I think there's still a little hesitation for people to get too excited, Marty.
Absolutely. Cautious optimism is the best way to approach it. But for now, we'll send that back to you guys in studio. Lisa.
All right, Marty Blunt, Greg Mackling, thank you. Let's take a look at the gains and losses happening right now. And at dissolution, the numbers just aren't showing up as correct.
So at dissolution, the NDP actually had 18 seats. Right now they're sitting at 25, so they've gained 7. The PCs at dissolution had 35 seats. They're sitting at 19, so they've lost 6. This is where I need my 10-year-old to help me out. And right now the Liberals are at a loss of 2, Richard. But there's a bunch of 2 of their ridings, rather, that we're still watching
and
for.
We have to explain that this is a new voting system that's coming in as far as the results are concerned. David alluded to it, that some areas where you think that the votes would be in right now. So now we have the NDP leading in 24, the PCs in 20, the Liberals in 1. So the Progressive Conservatives, a lot of those numbers are coming in now from rural Manitoba. So, you know, while about 10 minutes ago it was leaning more towards New Democrats, that PC vote is coming in. It's a different system than before.
And you'll see it at the bottom of your screen now, and you'll hear it from us now. NDP now leading at 24, PC at 20, and the Liberal at 1. So we've had a little bit of a shift there.
Those numbers are breathing. NDP back to 25.
As soon as I say it, Lisa, I have
19.
to get corrected.
Well, tap dance here, and let's include David Akin on that.
Well, let's go back and look at that blue wall of ministers I talked about earlier in the night. And could the PCs hold at that blue wall? If they did, they would be successful. But so far, blue wall crumbling right here in Radisson. In Radisson, Jaylyn Dela Cruz has a 248 vote lead over a minister, James Teitzma. So that's Radisson moving to the orange column. We go down to Southdale. That's Audrey Gordon, the health minister, losing right now to the New Democrat, Renee Cable. Cable has a 55 vote lead up on Audrey Gordon. 3 polls reporting. Still early. Still waiting for Elections Manitoba. You got some automated machines there, like... Come on, let's get the results out. We have no results in Lagimodiere. This is going to be an interesting fight. Andrew Smith is the incumbent PC candidate, also the minister who was on the front lines with the Liquor Mart union dispute. Lagimodiere, no results right now in Lagimodiere. But we do have some results in Seine River, right at the south end of the city. Seine River right now is in the NDP column, where Billy Cross, the NDP candidate, has a 130 vote lead. And then we pop up to... we pop up to Waverley, and I think a lot of people may be surprised at this. I know friends on the panel are a little shocked. John Reyes, the Progressive Conservative minister, is in 2nd place in Waverley, behind David Pancrax, a paramedic, who is leading 155 votes. So we talk about that blue wall, and we've got Radisson, we've got Southdale, Seine River, Riel, Fort Richmond, and Waverley, and there's Kirkfield Park, all ridings with ministers. That the blue wall has crumbled. We have no results for Assiniboia, no results so far for Assiniboia. We're waiting to have those. No results for Lagimodiere. Okay, Lisa.
All right, the NDP leading or elected in 25, the PCs 19, the Liberals 1. So let's take a look at what we know with some of the ridings where we have declared elected candidates, starting in Fort Garry, Richard.
Mark Wasiliu is elected with 56.9% of the votes over Rick Schoen.
We want to hit to St. Vital, of course, Jamie Moses. He was a popular guy the last time around, and as we're projecting, he is winning this riding by well over 1,000 votes so far.
We are also projecting a winner in Burroughs. Let's take a look at what's happening there.
Burroughs, we see...
No, Fort Rouge. Sorry, guys. NDP Wab Kinew. We are projecting he has been elected in his riding.
This was an interesting battle considering the rhetoric that went back and forth from the PC candidate, Rajan Caron, but she's way behind in this one. And of course, Burroughs, you mentioned, Richard.
There we go.
Jildit Brar winning and elected there, 47.7% of the vote. And the Maples, Lorette, handily for the NDP.
Mintu Sandhu, lead right now is 416 votes over the Liberal candidate. These mostly that we're citing through right now, including this one here, Transcona, Nella Altamar, we're projecting he wins this riding. Most of these ones we've been talking about, we weren't expecting based on what we were talking about heading into the night for them to change in any way. So those are mostly staying as they were.
Yeah. As we see those numbers move up and down in terms of leading and elected, the NDP 25, the PCs 19, Kevin Hirschfield and Hal Anderson at PC headquarters tonight. What's reaction down there been like, Kevin, as these numbers come in?
Well, that's the thing, Lisa. There hasn't been much of a reaction. Hal, I don't know if you've heard it. We haven't heard a cheer here yet. We're almost an hour into the show here. There has not been one cheer, just a lot of folks chatting and I would suspect looking nervously at the results. Just again, your thoughts. We're seeing cabinet ministers down again.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, listen, this is not what the Tories were hoping to see at this point in the night. We still have to wait and see where this goes, but eyes are glued to the monitors here and not a whole lot of reaction one way or another. I sat right here when you talked to Marnie Larkin, and I think she put on a pretty brave face. Again, we have to wait till the end of the night to see exactly how this is going to play out, but this is not what the Tories wanted to see.
Maybe just more reaction to the interview I just did with Marnie and what you heard with her and their strategy. Just give us some reaction to what you heard and the strategy that the PC's laid out.
Yeah, listen, I think Wab Kinew nailed the issue for most people. Healthcare, 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 and I think it's showing in the numbers.
The margin is narrowed a little bit in the PC's favor, but still the NDP with that lead, Lisa.
All right, Kevin and Hal, thank you. Let's take a look again at the popular vote in Winnipeg versus the rest of the province. This is always interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so the New Democratic Party right now is holding 50% of the popular vote. The Tories at 32%. The Liberals really strong, 15.9%. And I say really strong because they were 14% in the last election or lower, depending on where you were looking. And so that maybe tells you that there might be some changes yet, but not too many because the NDP are really holding strong in so many of these.
That NDP number above 50, almost 51%. It doesn't matter if the Liberals are above 10 because they're taking away a lot of votes. Outside the city of Winnipeg, PC's 56.2. Again, not a surprise because they win handily in some of those southeast and some of those southwest ridings.
We want to point out again at dissolution, the NDP came into the night with 18 seats, right now leading or elected in 26. The PC's 21, the Liberals 1. Marnie Blunt is at NDP headquarters tonight. Hey, Marnie.
Hey, Lisa. Yeah, you know, the NDP were leading in the polls going into this, and judging by the amount of cheers we're hearing, that's accurate. We've only heard one round of boos. But joining me to talk a bit more right now is Cheryl Oates, who's a strategist with the NDP's campaign. A lot of energy here tonight, as we said. How much do you think you owe this to the campaign?
This has been an incredible campaign, but it's owed to the campaign and it's also owed to Manitobans who this room is a great representation of. These are people who have been excited to vote for change, have been excited to vote for a government that is focused on the things that matter to them, like healthcare and affordability, and that enthusiasm to change the government and get things done is what's reflected in this room tonight.
Now, as you mentioned, healthcare obviously was the key focus. We heard it pretty much at the start of every campaign speech. How key is that messaging on healthcare and its consistency?
It's absolutely key. It is the number one issue that Manitobans have been worried about in the lead up to this campaign, and was absolutely vital that they saw in a leader for an option for the leader of the government to be focused on that as much as they were, to talk about it every day and to put forward real, credible solutions to solve the problems in their communities.
Cheryl, thank you so much, and good luck with the rest of the evening. And with that, we'll send that back to you guys in studio, and we'll bring you more from here at the NDP headquarters in a bit.
You bet. Thanks for that, Marnie Blunt. Again, I'm Lisa Dutton, joined by Richard Kluche and Loren McNabb. Tonight, the NDP leading or elected in 27 ridings, the PC's 21, the Liberals 1. These numbers have really been breathing, haven't they?
They've gone back and forth, and we have some close races I think we want to get to right now to tell you about. So first of all, let's look at Kildonan River East. We've got NDP's Rochelle Schott up against Alana Vanamy. That one has got a 7-vote difference in Kildonan River East. And then Riel, we expected this to be tight, Richard.
We do. Mike Moyes of the NDP ahead by 57 votes against the cabinet minister, Rochelle Squires.
In Southdale, Renee Cable is pulling ahead of Health Minister Audrey Gordon. No, leading by just 55 points, 55 votes rather, but the NDP candidate is ahead of Audrey Gordon right now.
And these are two ridings, Tuxedo, for example, Loren, where the Liberal vote is still strong.
So in Tuxedo, of course, the Conservative leader, Heather Stefanson, that's her riding, has been for well over 20 years. She's leading by 4 votes over the NDP candidate. I'd like to point out 2 of 26 polls reporting here. The Liberals at 29 there.
But Branson's been door knocking.
There's a lot of signs out there for him.
Yeah, and Renee Cable over against the health minister. There you're going to see the impact, name recognition of Robert Falcon-Willett for the Liberals.
All right, we're going to throw it over to David Akin. David, I know you're all about dissecting the numbers, but you land in Winnipeg and you always tell me about your conversations with your cab drivers. What are you hearing here in Winnipeg?
Well, you know what? It's the same thing I hear in Calgary or Toronto. They don't like Justin Trudeau. So take that. I've said he's not on the ballot here. No, I talked to a lot of people, and it seemed in the city anyway, city of Winnipeg, that there was some support for Wab Kinew, and certainly that's what we're seeing in the map of Winnipeg, a lot of orange. Let's remind people there's other parts of the province than just Winnipeg, and we do have some results down in the southeast. But on the other hand, I am going to keep calling out Elections Manitoba. Elections Alberta, we did this in the spring. They had some new technology and they had a foul up in the middle of the night. But Elections Manitoba, we are an hour into the polls and no results right now for Lac du Bonnet. No results down here yet or we do have results for La Vérendrye. But I was going to point at Midland, there's no results. There's more than a few ridings where there's no results. Concordia, right here in Winnipeg. So that's my little rant over. I'm not very happy with Elections Manitoba right now. Let's get some results out. But let's take a look at where somebody's winning in the southeast. In the southeast, there's La Vérendrye. I wanted to point that. Conrad Narth is the PC candidate. He is ahead with 54 votes, but just one poll reporting in La Vérendrye. One poll, we're an hour in. Okay, let's check Steinbach. I don't think there's going to be any problem there for Kelvin Gertson. He's ahead with 1,600, 5 polls reporting in Steinbach. And we'll also take a look right now, Dawson Trail, no Liberal here. No Liberal, and the Liberals finished second in this riding last time around. But right now, Bob Lagasse has got a 263 vote lead with 2 polls in. So Elections Manitoba, nobody reporting in some of these ridings, and in others, just 1 poll in an hour later. Elections Manitoba, come on, guys, you got these new machines. Let's get the internet working here or something. Don't you think, Lisa?
The NDP leading or elected in 28 ridings, the PCs 22, the Liberals 1. The Liberals came into the night a dissolution with 3 seats. Richard, talk a bit about their role tonight in this election.
Well, you always think, and we have to talk about the Liberals because they can be a spoiler, they can be balance of power in a very close evening like this, where the NDP are leading and elected in 28, the PCs in 22, the Liberals in 1. But so far, it's only John Gerard that's ahead and will likely be able to retain his River Heights riding. What is interesting, as Wab said, and I'm just waiting to hear back from Elections Manitoba, those ridings that aren't reporting yet, there's a few that would normally go for the Progressive Conservatives, a few for the NDP, but a few right on the line as well.
Actually been a switch. It's Cindy Lamoureux in Tyndall Park that's ahead, and John Gerard and the Liberal Edel Dougal-Lamont who are trailing right now, Lisa.
Yeah, all right. Elections Manitoba, Richard is trying to call you. It's like they're busy with something, Richard.
So let's look at Tyndall Park. Of course, Lamoureux's that name, that family name out there, they really got their ground game going. But her lead right now with 2 of 13 polls reporting is 86 over the NDP, Lisa.
All right, and with that, Rosanna Hampel at Liberal headquarters with 680 CJOB's Julie Buckingham. Ladies?
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, I've just heard one small cheer in the last few minutes here, but those eyes are very much still glued on the screens. Julie, Liberals just leading in Tyndall Park. What are your thoughts so far?
Well, we knew that this potentially could happen, as we did hear Dougal-Lamont say you don't have to hold your nose and vote for another party in order to make change. But at the same time, we also had the NDP leader, Wab Kinew, saying if you're thinking about voting Liberal, vote NDP and make sure that the PCs don't return to power. And it looks like Wab's message really got through. Now, some of those places we could see some really interesting things. in Southdale, we are seeing Robert Falcon-Ouellette do very well. You know, over 16% of the vote the last time I checked, which means we could see that bounce back and forth between NDP and the Progressive Conservatives. And so that could be a real factor here, but it's cold comfort if your party is getting more votes than it did last time, if you still are only leading in one riding and you went into the dissolution with 3.
And I haven't seen many more Liberal candidates trickle in here, but we'll throw it back to the studio.
All right, leading and elected popular vote. Let's take a look at how things are unfolding right now as we get closer to a call.
So we have the NDP leading in 19, elected in 9. So that's how we get to the total of 28. 29 is the magic number. The Conservatives leading at 20, elected at 2. We're at 22 for leading or elected for the Conservatives, 1 for the Liberals, Lisa.
All right, things are getting exciting. Don't go away. We're going to take a quick break before we start to get to that election call. Decision Manitoba continues in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back to Global News Decision Manitoba. You're watching Global Winnipeg. You're listening on 680 CJOB. I'm here with Loren McNabb, Richard Cloutier. I'm Lisa Dutton. We hit the air at 8 o'clock. Time is flying by. And as the numbers roll in, the NDP leading or elected in 28 ridings, the PCs 22, the Liberals 1. But we have some issues, technical issues we want to talk about, Richard.
Well, there are 6 ridings where there's absolutely nothing coming in. And I'm told from scrutineers from both the NDP and the Progressive Conservatives that they've had several voting machines crash. Southdale, River Heights, out in Waverley, and in those 6 ridings. Now, those votes are not lost because they're paper ballots. But what has to happen is that those machines either get rebooted or you have to count those votes by hand. So that's what's happening. We're checking on that as well.
All right, let's take a look at the ridings that our party leaders are in and where they stand right now. In St. Boniface, Dougald Lamont, the Liberal leader there, is trailing by about 364 votes to the NDP's Robert Loisel.
He's been out there just pounding the pavement for several years now, Richard.
He has.
He's born and raised in St. Boniface. He wants this bad tonight.
And Kinew, who is re-elected in Fort Rouge, we're projecting he is elected in Fort Rouge with 74% of the vote. But Kinew spent a lot of time in St. Boniface as well.
And Tuxedo, this is tight. We only have 3 out of 26 polls reporting, but Heather Stefanson is only leading Larissa Ashdown by a handful of votes, 36 votes there.
This is one of those ridings where we're just not seeing the votes coming in fast and furious like some of the others. And Richard just mentioned quickly, if you're listening at home and saying, where's my riding? Why aren't you telling me about it? We're talking Assiniboia, Concordia, Kiiwetinoong, Lagimodiere, and Midland. We're still waiting for any results from those areas.
And there are some other results in other ridings that are slow because of some of these machines crashing. But again, one of the key issues there is that those votes are not lost. They still exist.
The magic number is 29, folks, but this is leading or elected. The NDP currently leading or elected in 31 ridings, the PCs 20, the Liberals 1. If you're listening on 680 CJOB, I'm going to warn you, we're going down to NDP headquarters with Marnie Blunt and Greg Mackling, and it's loud.
And I'm joined right now by Mike Rose, who's the candidate for River Heights. How are you feeling about what's happening?
Oh, it's very exciting. I mean, the response of the public to the campaign that we ran, the positive messaging that we had around healthcare, affordability, the environment, just been spectacular. And you see the excitement here tonight and the response of the public overall.
Absolutely, and we're hearing more chants from NDP. We've heard 1 more seat, 2 more seats.
Yeah.
How key do you think your messaging on healthcare was?
I think it was pivotal, actually. I think it was really significant in terms of defining the most important issue for Manitobans. They wanted us to talk about how to solve it, not just in the short term, but in the long term as well. And I think we did that effectively.
Well, thank you so much, and all the best tonight.
Take care.
We'll send that back to you guys in studio.
All right, yeah, loud to say the least. The NDP leading or elected in 30 ridings, the PCs 21, the Liberals 1. Let's take a look at Liberal incumbents and how they're faring right now. Again, Dougald Lamont is behind in St. B.
Yeah, the Liberal leader could lose his seat tonight for the NDP's Robert Laswell. I think that's what some of the cheers were about. As on the opposite end, Tyndall Park, I don't know if the NDP challenger was as strong here, Richard, but Cindy Lamoureux, of course, is up by 323 votes for the Liberals.
Very strong brand, and Cindy Lamoureux is the future of the Liberal Party. But this is a bit of a shocker at this point, still early. But Mike Morose from the NDP has a 266 vote lead over John Gerard, the incumbent.
About half the polls reporting at this point.
And there was years where John Gerard was the lone Liberal in the legislature. He was elected in 1999. He's been at this a long time. That was who Marnie was just talking there, just for a reference point, because you might not know him because the NDP candidate is new. That was the NDP candidate right now, Mike, up over John Gerard.
A lot of people wondering how Heather Stefanson is making out tonight in tuxedo. Larissa Ashdown, the NDP candidate there, is leading. We have 4 out of 26 polls reporting she does have a slight lead over Heather Stefanson.
And that was part of the cheers at NDP headquarters, but still early going in some of these ridings. Some interesting trends in southern Winnipeg and outside the city of Winnipeg, but it's still 30 for the NDP, 21 for the PCs, 1 Liberal.
All right, David Akin, what do you make of it all?
Yeah, it's fairly interesting. 29 is the magic number. So right now, NDP certainly in majority territory. But of course, we don't have as many elected and able to declare. We have a lot of leading, so we still got to wait. And there's still, even though there's still some ridings without results, and some ridings only have 1 poll in or 2. I've got the North. I love Manitoba's North. It's a beautiful place to visit. I've been up to Churchill, love it up there. It's fantastic. Right now, those 2 ridings, they've been NDP since the 1960s. But look at this, this could be a surprise. Again, not a lot of polls in the Pas-Kamisic. The incumbent is New Democrat Amanda Laughlin. She is behind the progressive conservative candidate Alan McLaughlin. Alan McLaughlin spent a career as a police officer working for the RCMP, often in many fly-in communities. And right now, up in the Pas, Alan McLaughlin for the PCs is leading the New Democrat Amanda Laughlin. Just 2 polls in, though. Of course, we're only been counting for an hour and 12 minutes, just 2 polls in. But then there's another change down here in Dauphin. This was a PC riding to begin the night, but right now the New Democrats, Ron Kostitian, he was the ag minister, I think, for Premier Selinger and or Premier Dewar. He's running in Dauphin, and he has a 73-vote lead over the PC incumbent Gord Wood. It's just a 2-person race in Dauphin. We have 14 polls there. Good for Dauphin. They're counting their votes. They got 14 polls resulting. Well done, Dauphin. Right now, that's a New Democrat lead. And then the other one down in the southwest, Brandon East, we've been talking about this. Glenn Simard has now built up a 207-vote lead. Glenn Simard is the New Democrat in Brandon East over the incumbent Progressive Conservative Len Easlifson. 5 polls reporting in Brandon East. Brandon West is going to have a new MLA for sure because of a retiring PC candidate. Wayne Balkin is the former police chief. He's the PC candidate. He has a 61-vote lead over Quentin Robinson, United Church minister, in second place for the NDP. 4 polls in Brandon West. So, you know, I know the game's in Winnipeg, but in the beautiful north, we got some changes in the Pas, changes in in Dauphin, pardon me, and a change in Brandon East. All very interesting as the NDP now leading with 30, the PCs at 21, and the Liberals with just a single.
Richard Cloutier, you have been in the thick of it. You always are. What are you hearing right now?
Well, it's interesting. If I were to wrestle David Akin away from his board and draw a line from Dauphin Swan River right through the city of Winnipeg to Steinbach, along that line is the swing ridings, right? And so far, a lot of those swings have the NDP leading or elected in those ridings. And that's key. That was the key to the 1999 victory for Gary Dewar, is get those swing ridings, the Dauphins, the Swan Rivers, up in the north area. And then as you come into Winnipeg, the Selkirk and the Interlake. So far, Selkirk and Interlake are still staying with the Progressive Conservatives. But those 6 ridings that haven't reported yet, at least 2 comfortable NDP ridings, another 2 comfortable Progressive Conservative ridings. The other 2 could be switchers. So while we have the NDP, Lisa, leading and elected in 31, the PCs in 20, the Liberals in 1, We're getting there. The NDP would say we're getting there, but we're not there yet as far as 1999 all over
again. And the issues that mattered to many Winnipeggers are some of the issues that matter to the folks you're watching in Dauphin and Brandon and all the rest. You know, it's about the hospitals.
The campaign started, you know, really the NDP coming out strong around healthcare. And as things kind of turned darker for the Conservative Party towards the end, we wondered what was it going to be that was really going to bring voters out. Do you still think it was that healthcare issue?
I think in many of the cases that might just be it. It might be the win of the day for the NDP, and they never deviated from that script. We're in 31 seats right now, leading or elected for the NDP, and they're in that majority territory for sure. I think that worked in many cases. I also think there are some things that perhaps in that Conservative campaign that either turn people away and it just said no thanks.
But I look at that blue wall as it approaches the South Perimeter Highway, and more of that turns orange, NDP orange, and doesn't stay blue. That's the key to victory. The wall was crumbling about half an hour ago. It's really starting to show cracks now.
All right, Kevin Hirschfield is at PC Party headquarters. Kev, are they feeling blue right now?
Well, there were a few cheers since we last left you. Incumbents Kelvin Gertz and Doyle Panuke all re-elected. So we did hear some cheers finally. So a little bit of optimism here. Of course, the PC still behind. We're joined now by Rajan Karan, the PC candidate in Fort Rouge. Thanks for joining us. Rajan, you are defeated by Wab Kinew tonight, but just overall reflect on the campaign and the results here tonight. What are some of your initial thoughts to the results and the campaign in general?
Well, obviously, I would have liked to have won. I understand it is a NDP stronghold since probably in its inception. But one of the reasons why I ran and chose to run is because I am a police officer in that area. And I want, for the voters to be another option, but also to have that voice and to explain to the public some of the issues that we're encountering in our city that I'm seeing that's unique, such as, obviously the crime, being a police officer, and the addiction stuff, mental health. All of these things are huge, and I see it every day. I live it every day. So something that I definitely wanted to raise in this campaign.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rajan. We'll send it back to the newsroom, Lisa and the gang.
All right, thanks for that, Kevin Hirschfield. She was the face of one of those PC attack ads. Do you think they made a difference?
I think that they probably resonated with some as much as they turned some people off. And you have to wonder, did it just appeal to the people that were already going to go down that road anyway? Or did it sort of detract from those who were thinking about going down that road and decided not to?
Crime is definitely an issue for sure. But when it comes to taking over the races that you have to, those constituencies that you have to, healthcare right now is leading the way. But again, we don't have to oversimplify. Let's be simple here. This just could be a change election. People have had enough of the pre-Cs. We got through the pandemic. Maybe we're looking for just something else.
Here's a look at where things are close right now. These are the tight races, folks. We have about half the polls reporting in Kildonan River East. Rochelle Schott is leading over the PC candidate there, Alanda Van Ham. She has a lead of just a handful of votes, about 50 votes, 46.6% of the vote.
One of those key ridings, though. You see an NDP government, they win or almost win there.
Same goes with this one. Rochelle Squires is the incumbent. She was the family ministers 4 weeks ago. She's now trailing by 102 votes to Mike Moyes of the NDP.
He is growing that gap between them for sure. Kirkfield Park, Logan Oxenham right now, the NDP candidate there is leading over the PC incumbent, Kevin Klein.
But the Liberal vote there is 16%, which is very interesting. That would ultimately help Klein. In Waverley, the NDP ahead. David Pankratz has a lead of 138 votes, with 4 of 12 polls reporting over John Reyes of the Progressive Conservatives. There, the Liberals have just about 12% of the popular vote.
Heading into tonight, was Waverley something that, I'll rephrase. Heading into 4 weeks ago, was Waverley on the list of possible concerns or sort of on the periphery? And it sort of, as this campaign went on, people leaned in and thought, uh-oh.
On the periphery, and then about 2 weeks ago when things started to change, people, to me, were starting to say, watch Waverley. If the NDP win a supermajority tonight, Waverley, those types of ridings go. But right now, it's that southeastern part of Winnipeg. Those are all tight races right now ahead for the NDP. But we're here for a little while longer before you can actually declare.
You bet. All right, Marnie Blunt is at NDP headquarters tonight. She's with 680 CJOB's Greg Mackling. I know he's probably out wrangling some interviews for you, Marnie. Quite the guest list there tonight as folks continue to pour in.
Yeah, Lisa, there is quite the guest list. We've seen lots of different people coming in showing their support. We've seen different unions. We've seen the MKO Grand Chief. We've also seen Cambria Harris, who's the daughter of Morgan Harris, who's one of the women believed to be in the landfill north of the city. The PC government said they would not search that landfill. NDP and Liberals have said they will. But joining me to talk more about some of the energy in the room right now is who's the candidate for Wellesley. Thanks so much for joining us. How are you feeling about what's coming in?
Oh, I'm feeling very excited and very grateful. It's been an incredible campaign with some of the best people I've ever known, and I'm really proud to serve with this caucus and to see our caucus grow, potentially to form government under Wab Kinew, and there's nothing to feel but good right now.
Now, we did hear during the campaign, we did hear NDP Leader Kinew appeal to Liberal voters, hoping to get more of that Liberal vote to beat out Heather Stefanson, the PCs. How much of an effect do you think that had tonight?
I couldn't hear the question, sorry. Can you just say that again?
How much of an effect do you think that had tonight?
You know, I was helping out in St. Boniface, so I talked to a lot of past Liberal voters at the door. But they were also feeling, maybe it was that appeal, maybe it was the possibility of, they just wanted to see a change of government. The Liberals weren't going to deliver that to the Liberal voters. And I think they saw that we're trying to build something that's for everyone, to bring all of Manitoba together, and they wanted to be a part of that.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for your time and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
And we'll send that back to you in studio, Lisa.
All right, Marty, thank you. David Akin, now we're going to send it over to you for a bit of a nail biter.
I'm so excited that Assiniboia has its first result of the night. Over here, Assiniboia, but look at that color. It's our color for a tie, folks, because in Assiniboia, it's 1-1. 1-1. It's like a tie. Jets Oilers 1-1. I don't know what here. Scott Johnson is the incumbent in Assiniboia, progressive conservative. He's got one vote, so that's his vote. He voted for himself. And let's assume Nellie Kennedy, the New Democrat, also voted for herself. She's tied. There are no votes for the Liberals, and those are the only three candidates. Just want to flag that because one poll reporting, it's kind of an hour and 20 minutes, finally Assiniboia. And that is a riding that is in play tonight. Scott Johnson is going to have a hard time holding on. Now, let's look at some other ridings that now have results finally. Concordia. I don't think there's any doubt here that Matt Wiebe is certainly the favorite here, and he is ahead with two polls reporting by 460 votes over Alex Rogers, University of Manitoba student, getting involved in politics. Good for him. But, there we go. Now Assiniboia has moved ahead because we got some more numbers. It's 3-2 in Assiniboia right now. Scott Johnson up. I just want to keep these. We've been waiting for these all night long, and you see we're now starting to get some where we had Springfield Richo. You say potato, I say potato. Ron Schuler is ahead in there, and we finally have results there. But it looks like, looking at the board now, we're starting to see results everywhere. At least one vote. It's like 3-2 in Assiniboia. But anyhow, 32 for the NDP. That's certainly majority territory, leading or elected. PCs, 23, and the Liberals, 1. So right now, just Cindy Lamoureux up there in Tyndall Park is the only Liberal on the board. Lisa, back to you.
All right, Global News Chief Political Correspondent David Akin. Clunky with elections Manitoba tonight, Richard.
Yeah, it is clunky. We're expecting more results. Some of those ridings that weren't reporting are starting to slowly report now. There's some really interesting stories emerging, though. I look at the legacy of John Gerard in River Heights, Lorraine. So far, he is losing there. You would think that he would try to retain that. Still early going there, but you could see the Liberals collapsing in some of these areas, but their popular vote in some of those key ridings is still above 10%.
Yeah, so John Gerard is trailing by 200 votes to Mike Moreau's of the NDP. We've got 65% of polls voting there, Lisa. And so there's, it's a lonely place to be a Liberal tonight if these results hold.
Rosanna Hempel is down at Liberal Party headquarters. Oh, sorry. We do have Rosanna. She's keeping the Liberals company tonight. Rosanna?
Yeah, I'm here with Roy Jemison, strategist and candidate for Thompson. Thanks for joining me, Roy. So, you know, the Liberals are not really seeing the results that they're wanting to right now. What can you break down what went amiss here?
Well, I think it's a case of Manitoba voters wanted the PCs out so badly that they voted the easiest way to get them out, and that was to go NDP. We know that the NDP targeted our constituencies very heavily. They wanted to wipe us off the map. They did talk about not splitting the vote to get the PCs out, and that's been effective, it seems. There's still some results to come. We want to see how John Gerard does. We want to see how our leader does. It's disappointing at this point. It looks like it's going to be an NDP majority. We were hoping we would be in a minority situation. But
all right,
right
sorry to interrupt you. But I'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time, Roy. I appreciate it. That's okay. Roy Jemison, candidate and strategist for the Manitoba Liberals. Back to the studio.
All right, Rosanna, thank you. Loren and Richard, it will be a bigger conversation later, the future of the Liberal Party. But for now, let's take a look at the close races because there are a handful. In Kildonan River East, we've been watching this. Rochelle Schott, the NDP candidate there, has a lead over Alana Van Ham by about 90 votes, about half the polls there reporting right now.
Yeah, this one has had NDP in lead for the start of the night, and same goes for Riel. Mike Moy is leading by now 1,400 votes over former Families Minister Rochelle Squires. That looks like a tough go for them there. And in Kirkfield Park, this has stayed the same from the get-go. 21 of 27 polls reporting with the NDP up front.
Logan Oxenham has a 297 vote lead over Kevin Klein. In Waverley, the NDP's David Pankratz, a 142 vote lead over John Reyes, the incumbent there, with 41.9% of the vote. Pankratz, 45.4%.
All right, in River Heights, Mike Morrows with 42.9% of the vote over the Liberal candidate there. Again, John Gerard, we were just talking about him.
This will still be
Liberal
tight,
incumbent.
though. This is still tight.
Quite frankly, I don't think I've done an election since I moved back to Winnipeg in 2000 where John Gerard wasn't in tough almost every single time, and he's trailing by a couple hundred votes there. We've got well over half of polls reporting, but it's always been tight.
But if this is a healthcare election and people have made up their minds and saying what's the best way to vote out the progressive Conservatives, then all bets are off.
One of their candidates just said it there to Rosanna. I think his theory, I mean, this is the way they're going to sell it to themselves as a party. They wanted the Conservatives out so bad that they were willing to do anything to get it, and the path they saw to victory, if that's the buy-in we had to take from the Liberal candidate, was through the NDP.
But it explains why every time we turned on global television in 680 CJOB, Wab Kinew was talking healthcare, healthcare, healthcare.
All right, Kevin Hirschfield and Hal Anderson are at PC Party headquarters tonight. Guys, we just saw Kevin Klein, the Conservative incumbent, is trailing. John Reyes, the Conservative incumbent, trailing. What's your reaction, guys?
Yeah, we wanted to talk about that. Those are several key cabinet ministers. We've been talking about it throughout this campaign, the blue wall of cabinet ministers that the NDP has to break. Hal, when you look at some of these results and some of these cabinet ministers trailing, is there one that surprises you more than the other?
Well, and there's others, right? Audrey Gordon, Rochelle Squires. No, I don't know. We knew these were going to be tight races. They're tight, but they seem to be leaning NDP at this point. I was about to head out in this crowd at PC headquarters earlier with a spoon to put it in front of some mouths to see if there was life in any of the crowd here. And then we started hearing a few cheers for Gertson in Steinbach and a few others. We're hearing some cheers, but they don't like these numbers.
They don't. And I want to ask you, Hal, you have some experience, as we hear another cheer, you have some experience in politics, running a campaign, waiting for these numbers.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm here tonight, by the way. I'd rather be on this side.
These have to be tense times, I imagine. Take us through what it's like, as a candidate sitting here waiting for those polls to come.
You put everything into a campaign. Today was all about GoTV, get out the vote, right, for the parties and the leaders and the candidates. And now the votes come in. And some people are excited. Some people are really depressed about the results, and others are biting their nails, and we have to wait and see.
Couple more cheers as we were talking there. They hope to hear a whole lot more of that as we move on this election night, Lisa.
Kevin and Hal, thank you. The popular vote in Winnipeg versus everywhere else. Here is a quick look at the numbers, guys. Let's get through this quickly.
Yeah, NDP 51% of the vote. Winnipeg, Tories 32%, Liberals sitting at 14%, and then we have that 1% in the other category. Let's look outside of Winnipeg.
PC's ahead, 57.7% of the vote. Again, that's in areas where the PCs win handily in southeast and southwest Manitoba.
So great to have you all with us here on Global Winnipeg and 680 CJOB. This is Decision Manitoba. Things are about to get exciting. Come right back. Welcome back to Decision Manitoba on Global Winnipeg and 680 CJOB. I'm here with Loren McNabb, Richard Cloutier, Global News Chief Political Correspondent David Akin, and my name is Lisa Dutton. Let's round up the leaders' ridings right now. The NDP leading or elected in 31 ridings, the PC's 24, the Liberals 1. Here's a look at St. Boniface.
Yeah, the Liberal leader losing right now by 409 votes rather to the NDP candidate Robert Loisel. This is in tough for Dougald Lamont, Richard.
In Fort Rouge, NDP leader Wab Kinew has been elected.
No surprise there in that one. And then, of course, in Tuxedo, we've been watching this one because at one point it was flipped. We did have the NDP leading in Heather Stefanson's long-held riding. Right now she's leading by 136, but the polls, there's only a quarter of the polls reporting and the Liberal vote there.
The Liberal vote is third. The NDP sending a message on healthcare to Heather Stefanson there. Heather Stefanson, that used to be Gary Filmon's riding way back when. That is a message. I think Stefanson still wins that. But if the NDP finish a strong second, that is a strong message to progressive conservatives.
At one of the polling stations in Tuxedo today for the show, the morning show, and the very first comment I got from a voter when I said, what's the issue? It started with healthcare. Then it went to affordability, but healthcare came out first.
All right, David Akin has been over dissecting these numbers tonight and just chomping at the bit. You need more right now.
More numbers.
Some of them coming in slow.
I need more numbers. I'm going to come back to the north, a long way away from Tuxedo. Let's just check in on the north where we do have some elected right now. Tom Lindsay, natural resources critic for the NDP, probably going into cabinet if the NDP get the chance to form that. We are projecting that he is elected in Flin Flon. Also up in Thompson, Eric Redhead is declared elected up in Thompson as well for the NDP. But look at this right here. We have a tie again. Kiiwetinoong right now is we have Ian Bushy.
Pause you. We have Dougald Lamont taking to the podium right now.
Dougald, of course, trailing in his riding.
Merci à tout le monde à Saint-Boniface. Thank you to everyone from St. Boniface who supported us, everyone who supported every single one of our candidates across Manitoba. But ultimately, the people have decided, and sometimes you get caught in a wave, and it doesn't seem to matter what you do. There's an old saying from Ecclesiastes, which I quoted the last time, after the last election, that I saw under the sun the race is not to the swift, nor the battle of the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge, but time and chance happen to them all. And you know, I will say, I always knew this was a possibility, but we had to hope beyond hope and keep working and do everything we could to run the best possible campaign we could, and we did. And I'm incredibly proud of that. And I want to share a message I got. Thank you. And I'll share a message I got from a friend today. It said, our family voted Liberal today. You've been amazing throughout the campaign, providing integrity, practicality, and a genuinely strong moral compass. And I can tell you what my exact reaction was. It was, that's really nice, but that's the kind of campaign that doesn't win in Manitoba. You know, I've worked a lot of hard campaigns. This was one of the hardest, but I have to say it was also one of the very best. For the stands we took, for the fact that we stayed true to our principles at every moment, that we handled ourselves and our opponents with respect. And I do think that people did respond to our vision and our candidates and to our record. And ultimately, the Manitoba Liberals are a grassroots party. Every single one of our campaigns is held together with baling wire and twine, sheer will, and a lot of faith. And we used every single scrap of baling wire and every inch of twine in putting together this campaign. I know we changed hearts and minds in this election, but I also know that's not always enough. And you know, I've sometimes joked there's a St. Jude who's the patron saint of nursing and the patron saint of the impossible and the patron saint of hopeless causes. And what defines a hopeless cause is not that it can't get better. It's that you have to dedicate yourself to it whether there's hope on the day or not. And the other is that when you truly believe in a cause, as we do, it means you keep working on it. Because the work is what creates hope. As MLAs and as candidates and as a party, we've helped people who've given up hope because the other parties gave up on them. And that's why our voices mattered. It's why our contributions over the years mattered. And why I am truly sad today to be losing, but the people have spoken. I'll congratulate Robert Lozelle. I congratulate Wab Kinew. And that's it. Thank you. Merci.
Richard Loren, whether you were voting Liberal or not, I think over the course of the campaign, a lot of people could agree that Dougald Lamont was strong. He was strong in the debates. He was strong in that speech.
Well, he was strong, but his message was not very focused early on. You'd start talking to him and he'd be all over the map. And unfortunately, he paid the price in a healthcare election so far. Loren, it really goes towards the NDP. And I've known Dougald Lamont for about 20 years. I used to have him on panels when he was a Liberal insider, and that's what he was, a Liberal insider that could talk a good game as far as the insides of a party, but as far as retail politics is concerned, there's a reason why he finished third.
All right, Marnie Blunt at NDP headquarters with 680 CJOB's Greg Mack.
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, the energy is still up here, maybe a little bit more cautious as things tighten up a bit. But of course, Richard was just mentioning some of Lamont's messaging being a little bit all over, but it's a different thing here.
No question about it. It's been healthcare, healthcare, healthcare. You don't need us to tell you that at home watching or listening on CJOB. That's been the message. The message has been pretty clear from the get-go which way the NDP was going to go, and I would suggest that mimics the mood in the room tonight. There's been a little bit of a dip because the scoreboard has tightened up. I would suggest we're in the fourth quarter right now. We've got an 8-point difference, 7-point difference. It's a touchdown. And at this point, a couple of seats flipping either way makes all the difference, because with the Liberals sort of slipping out of contention and out of the conversation, it's now a two-horse race in every race that's left to be decided.
But a barn burner makes for a bit more of an interesting night, that's for sure.
Well, it's warm enough in here, that's for sure. There's lots of individuals from the Firefighters Union. I don't know if we have a fire marshal here or not, because this room, this floor is absolutely packed.
Yeah, we're struggling, but we're making it through it here. And with that, we'll send that back to you, Lisa.
All right, Marty Blunt and Greg Mackling, thank you. Again, the Liberals came into the night at dissolution with 3 seats. They are down to 1. The NDP leading or elected in 31 ridings, folks. The PC's 24. Let's take a look at leading and elected and how things are shaking out. First in Assiniboia.
Boy, this took a while for results to come in. We waited well over an hour to see results in this riding. Of course, Scott Johnson of the PC's the incumbent. He's trailing to the NDP right now. The Kildonan River East, we've been watching this one all night long, and it's been tight. Rochelle Schott with an 81-vote lead over Alana Vanamy of the PCs. And again, we could be here for a while for this one, Richard.
These are the suburban ones. La Jamaudière, another tight one. Andrew Smith, everybody's watching this one. He's got a lead of 35 over Tyler Blasco.
8 of 23 polls reporting in La Jamaudière, and this is Tuxedo.
Heather Stefanson is in the lead, but just by 136 votes. And in Waverly, 8 out of 12 polls reporting. This is our paramedic, another health care candidate for the NDP. David Pankratz has a lead over John Reyes.
With Waverley and Tuxedo that we just showed there, only a quarter or so of the polls reporting in terms of the numbers, and the percentage might be a little higher. So it's really early days for those ones, Richard.
It is, but that is the blue wall that David has been talking about, and more cracks in that wall.
All right, David, over to you.
I didn't get a chance to reflect on Dougal Lamont's rather bizarre speech. Not bizarre, perhaps, of the fact that he decided to, that's it. I mean, it looked like this was going to be the election that was going to squeeze the Liberals because they had been challenged. Now, Dougal Lamont has not been declared the loser yet in St. Boniface. I mean, it isn't looking great for him, but we have not declared Robert Laveswell elected just yet. So a bit surprising that he come out. Neither us nor any other network has declared somebody's won the election. We are still having a lot of close races, but I will come to this one point. I'll take a look at Tuxedo, great example. In Tuxedo, Heather Stefanson 136, NDP are second, and Mark Branson third. But in 2019, Branson was second. So there's still people out there voting Liberal. Back to you, Lisa.
We also want to talk about this Dougal speech.
Yeah, well, as David just referenced, you know, we were sitting here and we threw down to the Liberal headquarters. I thought we might hear from Dougal in an interview capacity, and there he was standing on the stage, essentially conceding. He has been trailing all night to the NDP candidate, Robert Wazell, but at the same time, to the point we went, no, let's go down to Rosanna Hempel. She's standing by with Dougal Lamont.
There he is, Rosanna Hempel and Julie Buckingham with Dougal Lamont.
Thanks, Lisa. We're now with the former Liberal leader, Manitoba Liberal leader, Dougal Lamont. He just gave a speech telling us that he is stepping down. Lamont, if you could just come in a little bit closer here.
Stand up or no? Okay.
You're very tall, yeah.
Okay.
You know, you gave a very emotional speech.
Yeah.
What's running through your mind, and what would you like to share with our viewers?
Look, the thing I've always said, like even in a fair game, there's always going to be a winner and a loser, right? That's the reality of it. And sometimes, I know this, I've worked on lots of campaigns. All the best efforts you make ultimately don't make the difference that you hope they will. It's very difficult. Yeah, like I know we had a great response from lots of people. People liked our ideas, but that's not always enough, and that's the hardest part. Yeah, and I think it's unfortunate because I think I think my colleague Cindy Lamoureux is still going to be in the legislature, but ultimately, yeah, no, this is, in a sense, we always knew that either we could pick up seats or there was a risk that this would happen, and it happened. So, in a sense, there's a relief because the suspense is over. But yeah, it's yeah. I mean, look, this is very fresh, obviously. So, but yeah, I don't know. I know that we got lots of feedback from people who were very pleased with what we did and what we said. But at the end of the day, yeah, debates. I wish things like debates and platforms and ideas made a bigger difference.
And you did perform very well in the debates. That was the overall thing that we heard from our listeners and from our viewers. It's very difficult to lead when you don't have a seat in the legislature. Do you feel that it's...
What are you talking about?
to lead? Are you going to continue to lead your party?
I just resigned.
Yeah, and that's what I mean in terms of
Sorry, I just resigned.
I understand that, and I was saying it's very difficult to lead when you don't have a seat. So, as you look to the future, what do you hope that the next leader will be able to do? That you couldn't, because in all accounts you did so well in the debates, and you seem to resonate with the electorate.
I can't answer that. I'm sorry. I cannot. I cannot talk about it. Look, whatever they have to do, the important thing is to keep building the grassroots, and we need to focus on organization. Right? I mean, like ultimately, look, we're a small grassroots party. Like this is the thing people don't understand. We're not the federal Liberals. We are our own entirely independent party, and that means that we don't have. Yeah, we simply don't have the resources the other two parties do. So it's all the same things we have to do always. But ultimately, there needs to be a progressive voice as an alternative to the NDP, because I don't think they've been progressive. And yeah, I mean, we'll see how.
Sorry, that's all the time we have right now. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. We'll throw it back to the studio.
All right, Rosanna Hampel, Julie Buckingham, thank you.
Well, and just to, I've been talking to somebody within the Liberal Party. They knew the numbers. They actually, David, had a real sense that he was going to lose, decided to resign, and it's kind of one of those times where he's just, leave me alone now. And you could hear in that interview, he's distraught because he poured his heart and soul knowing that they weren't going to win government here, but he was hoping to win his seat back, and obviously he's not going to do that tonight. But yet, the future of the Liberal Party is out there, and she's winning her seat.
Cindy Lamoureux, of course. We were projecting she's elected, Lisa, in Tyndall Park. She won the last time around. We thought she might be in a bit tough against the NDP in this one, but her lead right now is 1,400 plus, and so we're projecting that she wins this, and she might go on to be the, well,
she's ready.
She's ready to be the next leader of the Liberal Party.
Yeah, her father, Kevin Lamoureux, is an MP, and since she was a toddler, has been taught about politics, and I think she's the future of the Manitoba Liberal Party, if it has a future.
All right, back down to Marnie Blunt and Greg Mackling at NDP headquarters. Marnie, you're up.
Hi. Thanks for that, Lisa. Sorry. As you can tell, it is loud in here and a little bit hard to hear you. There's a lot of energy in this room. We're hearing Zoma Asgawara give speeches about how many volunteers have come out and supported and helped trying to get people out during this campaign to get the vote out. And that was really a key part. We saw record numbers in advance polls. That's a big part of this election.
That's right. Nearly half of all Manitobans who cast a vote in this election did so in the early auction and did so before today. And so when you look at that, you know, the ground game is so important in politics. I volunteered in exactly one campaign when I was 17 years old. And that was my job. My dad and I went out and we picked up individuals and known supporters for the candidate we were working for and drove them to the polls. Well, with the weather the way it was today, you know that those rides to the polls might have been incredibly important in terms of the drive to get those 5, 10, 15 votes per poll that turn into a victory. And so that ground game for all political parties, absolutely critical. And whoever pulls it off best typically wins.
Absolutely, a very critical part. It's something that definitely has played a key role in this election. And for now, we'll throw that back to you, Lisa.
All right, let's take a look at our leading and elected and popular vote so we can give you a better sense of how the numbers are playing out here in Manitoba tonight. The NDP leading in 17 ridings, elected in 15. The PC's leading in 13, elected in 10. When people are asking why we haven't called the election yet, this is why. It's still too early to tell. Popular vote.
The New Democrats ahead at 44.2% Manitoba-wide, the PCs at 41.9%. But there are 6 ridings, fewer than 100 votes are between the PCs and the NDP. And David Akin, that's part of the story tonight, is that you've got a lot of tight races in Winnipeg and outside the city of Winnipeg.
That's right. I want to, if you can come, there I am, I'm on, and I got the 2 Brandons up on my board, and those are 2 of those ridings. Let's check in first on Brandon East, where New Democrat Glenn Simard is leading by 139 votes over the PC candidate Len Eastlifson. I am going to swipe to use my graph. This is a graph that shows how the leads have changed over the evening, and you can see we had an early lead for the PCs. Then with about 10% of polls in, the NDP is taking control. The lead is narrowing with about 35% of the polls reporting. That's Brandon East. Brandon West may be more surprising. The 2 Brandons, by the way, have not gone NDP since Gary Dewar won his first majority back in 2003. That's 20 years ago, folks. But right now, Brandon West, Quentin Robinson with the narrowest of leads, 6 votes over Wayne Balkin, the former police chief, and the PC candidate. We have 11 of 17 polls reporting here, so Brandon West is kind of coming along. Let's take a look. We have had just recently a lead change. It has been PC all night long, and now with just over 60% of the polls in, that's when the lead change happened. But again, 6 votes. One last one that's in the southwest we want to talk about, is the southwest we want to talk about, thank you very much, is the riding of Dauphin. Here it is. It's another close race, two-person race. Gord Wood, the PC incumbent, has a 59-vote lead over Ron Kostitian, a former MLA, running for the New Democrats. And once again, if we take a look here, look at that. Sure, the PC's jumped out to a bit of a lead, but then it's been neck and neck all night long with multiple lead changes. We're going to be watching that. And so when we look at the big score, 32 for the NDP, well, let's say, you know, the two Brandons go back to the BCs, and you can see how that can start to get a little tight. So right now, good for the NDP, but I think they might be just a hint of anxiety if I was a New Democrat right now. And again, just maybe a hint of optimism if you're a progressive conservative. Lisa.
All right, David Akin, thank you. Loren, can you chat a bit about how the campaigns are factoring into the results tonight?
Well, I think in that region, for sure, healthcare, we talked about that often. I mean, we can't say it enough that healthcare is one of the issues there. The reason why it's so tight, I think, there is because of the surrounding areas are always those conservative strongholds. But in Brandon, in the Prairie Mountain Health region, Richard, they've been feeling healthcare so deeply, so badly. It has one of the highest rates of absenteeism, vacancy rates for all the healthcare professionals. It's where we're seeing all of the high expenses for agency nurses. And so when you look at a region that's really been hit hard by healthcare, that is one for sure, Lisa.
And Dauphin as well. The Dauphin jail and the closing of the Dauphin jail, a key issue there. But outside Dauphin, the vote is different from inside Dauphin, but the constituency is quite large. So we'll see that kind of flip-flop throughout the evening.
Let's go now to Kevin Hirschfield and Hal Anderson at PC Party headquarters. Kevin?
Yeah, and we're still hearing the odd cheer here and there for those PC incumbents out in rural Manitoba who are re-elected, but the crowd here, they wanted more than that. They knew those candidates were going to get in, but they wanted to hear some more cheers for those in the Winnipeg ridings, which we're not hearing. We've got a box full of thunder sticks behind Hal here. I don't know if you can see them on camera. No,
I'm not sure the thunder sticks are going to get used tonight, or at least not yet.
Nobody's touched the thunder sticks yet, so we're not getting. It's completely different too. You look at Marty and Greg at the NDP, completely kind of different rooms, but it was very quiet here when Dougald Lamont spoke and gave his speech, and the PCs were really hoping for more from the Liberals. That seemed to be the way that maybe they could, and again, we're not over yet, but they were hoping to see more from the Liberals. Were you surprised that maybe we're not seeing more from the Liberals? And go ahead.
I kind of am. I'm. You know, we're seeing some popular vote numbers that are, you know, around that 10% mark that Richard Cloutier talks about all the time. It's only translated into one seat so far for Lamoureux. It's interesting here at PC headquarters at Canada in Fort Garry because Cameron Friesen was here. I'll talk to you in 10. Candice Bergen, maybe later. Nobody's talking yet because they want to see what happens with these numbers.
Still some fingers crossed, still some hope here from the Celebrations Dinner Theater for sure. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, it's almost 10 o'clock. We still haven't made an election call. As we look at the leading and elected numbers, the NDP leading or elected in 32, the PC's 23, the Liberals 1. We're going to show you the really close races so you can understand why we're not able to declare anything yet.
Look at Assiniboia right now. So we have 2 of 20 polls reporting. Not a lot of data coming through there. The NDP leading by just 7, and that's one of at least 6 ridings, Richard, to which we're seeing this kind of thing, a difference of 60, 70 votes or less, or even just a handful. This is another one that's been tight all night.
Rochelle Trott in Kildonan River East, the NDP candidate there, a lead of 81, 15 of 24 polls reporting.
Lajimodier, Andrew Smith pulling ahead by a whopping 35 votes over Tyler Blaschko. It is so tight in Laj tonight. This is my riding. So many orange signs popping up in the last week.
Tuxedo hasn't changed in about 30 minutes now.
We've been
Heather
stuck on
Stefanson
7 of 26 polls reporting
has a
for
136 vote lead over Larissa Ashdown of the NDP.
In Waverley, David Pankratz, the NDP candidate, is leading John Reyes by a handful of votes, less than 100. 8 out of 12 polls reporting, so we are getting closer there.
McPhillips, this was a tight race in 2019. That's when it was newly created. We have the NDP up by 144 over the PC. JD Devgan in the lead there right now with 12 of 21 polls reporting. If we think it's sort of tense to figure out where this night is going and you wonder what they're doing to try to warm the crowd at NDP headquarters, each of these individuals has been stuck in a holding pattern for half an hour now.
Now, the NDP are trying to penetrate McPhillips. They're trying to win on the east and the west side of Winnipeg. So far, they've only been able to penetrate that blue wall on the south side. Their path to victory needs, you need to have more of those ridings in East and West Winnipeg, but you also need some of those rural ridings. So while they're ahead or leading and elected in 32, the PC's 23, the Liberals 1, that path to victory isn't there yet because of those close ridings.
All right, Marnie Blunt and Greg Mackling at NDP headquarters. Marnie, I hope you can hear me okay. How are they responding to the numbers down there?
You know what? We were hearing those cheers, Lisa, but they are starting to slow down a little bit more. And Richard mentioned that holding pattern, and we're starting to see that reflect a little bit in the mood right now.
Yeah, I think that we're starting to get into that nervous part of the game where your team's ahead, but you're not quite sure if they're going to be able to hold on to the lead. A little bit of nervous energy, as you mentioned the last time we were here. But I think there are two races that, if they announce have gone NDP, will bring the roof absolutely down here. David Pancratz in Waverley, he's got so many supporters here with the Firefighters Union, and Tracy Schmidt in Rossmere. I know that's one riding that we've been watching probably for the last week. It's been on my short list in terms of ridings that sort of need to go orange in order for the NDP to come out with a victory tonight. And I think that if we get a positive result in this room, the energy is going to be off the charts. Those are two ridings I'm looking at the moment.
Absolutely. It comes and it goes, but it will likely pick up here if we do see those ridings as
people are getting a little anxious for David Akin to make a declaration, I think.
There's a lot of going back and forth to the bar right now. But anyways, we'll send that back to you, Lisa.
David's tired.
He's commenting back there.
Yeah.
He's ready to make the call too.
Yeah.
But we've got a lot of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 ridings where we're less than 100 votes.
Yeah, and it is tight that way. It's a very difficult path to victory for the Progressive Conservatives as the NDP are elected and leading in 32, the PC's 23, the Liberals in 1. Aiken's still on that Eastern time zone though. So, for him, it's close to midnight.
David, you talk about that blue wall of cabinet ministers and chipping away at it. Can you talk a bit about what you're seeing right now?
Yeah, I mean, I am very much awake. I'm excited about elections. Thank you very much, everybody. In the Eastern time zone, I love being in Manitoba. Listen, let's take a look one more time at those ridings. Let's put big X's on the ridings that the NDP have picked up. So X is where there was a minister. There we go. Because this sort of tells us where the PCs, they got to take some X's off the board. McPhillips, we were talking about that. There's Rossmere, there's Kildonan River East, there's Southdale. That's a lot. Oh, pardon me, of course, Waverley right there. That's a lot. I'm looking back going, what are the X's that they can pull off? They really would have to flip completely. That just seems a little bit unlikely that they might have a couple of these, maybe Assiniboia is going to come back to Scott Johnson's category, but for the PCs to see a path to victory at this point in time, they've literally got to undo all the NDP gains in Winnipeg. And I should point out, I'm going to get rid of that one right there, we still have a tie up in Kiiwetinoong, which is almost certainly going to go to the NDP column at the end of the night, but right now, 2-2. Again, this is Elections Manitoba, 2 hours after the polls have closed, and all they've been able to do is count 4 ballots in a riding. That's really not a performance standard that you want any elections authority to be proud about. Something's got to be done there, and I'm sure people will be asking Elections Manitoba to review their performance tonight. It hasn't been exactly a thriller.
All right, David, thank you. Let's take a look at our popular vote. We always look at Winnipeg first, and then we look everywhere else. The New Democrats leading with 50.8% of the popular vote in Winnipeg. The PC party, 31.9%.
The Liberals are at 16, Loren, but that is a deceiving number considering only one seat delivered so far. I said hang on as far as River Heights is concerned because John Gerard has been in a lot of tight races there. He's losing to the New Democrat there by 227 votes, but the Liberals have done well in southeast part of the city.
So we've been waiting a long time, Lisa, for
13 minutes we're hearing since we've gotten the last results. It's been a full 13 minutes.
I keep checking on Brandon West. It's taking forever that to roll in. Tuxedo, Heather Stefanson's ahead, but that has her ahead, but not by as much as usual because there's been no results coming in, Lisa. There's several ridings where this has been kind of nail-biting for the wrong reason because you're not seeing any movement.
Well, and I have been texting my sources who are scrutineers as well for the various parties. They're saying that earlier in the evening they had some crashing in some election machines. The votes were still saved. Don't worry about that. But that delayed the process. But it doesn't explain away all the other problems that we've had in getting those types of results in.
All right, Kevin Hirschfield and Hal Anderson, we're going to take you back to Progressive Conservative Party headquarters, guys.
Yeah, you guys talking about not a lot of movement here with the results. The only real movement here at PC headquarters, they're moving towards the food tables.
And why aren't we moving to the food table, Kevin?
The sandwiches have come out. Folks, you know, it's still locked in. Again, the results don't look great right now, but they still have their fingers crossed and they're hoping for some of those really tight ridings. These are really tight ridings.
Really tight.
Like we're talking about a handful of votes. They're hoping for some of those ridings to turn. So what we've seen tonight, it appears right now Manitobans, Winnipeggers, maybe buying that healthcare message from Wab Kinew. Let's look back to how this campaign started. Remember, Wab Kinew and the NDP were out every day, mid to late August, every day with a campaign announcement. We really didn't hear much from the Conservatives until the writ dropped, and we really didn't hear anything from them on healthcare until a week or two into the campaign. Remember, they saved their healthcare promises for later. That allowed the NDP to sneak in there with their message. Hal, if you were on that campaign, would you have done something differently with the healthcare message?
I think the consistency of the NDP campaign, healthcare, the issues start to finish, I think appears to be paying off. We'll see. We have to wait and see, of course, because a lot of these races are tight. The Tories, their campaign moved around a little bit, right, and got ugly for a lot of people at the end. We'll see which one works out to be the best. At this point, it looks like the consistent healthcare campaign by the NDP is helping here.
That cliche is true that every vote matters. We're seeing in some of these races, and the PCs hope that they can flip their way here in the next little while, Lisa.
You bet. Kevin Hirschfield and 680 CJOB's Hal Anderson. I'm also here with Richard Kluche and Loren McNabb. I'm Lisa Dutton. We want to welcome in all of our radio listeners. If you're coming and going, we're on every platform tonight taking care of you. We want to just recap the numbers. The NDP leading or elected in 32 ridings, the PC's 23, the Liberals 1. Let's take a look at some of the close races as we continue to patiently wait along with all of you for some more numbers from Elections Manitoba.
Dauphin. Okay, so we have 19 of 48 polls reporting here. We've got the Tories in the lead by 59. That's the incumbent Gord Wood beating right now Ron Kostishin. This one's kind of been stuck. We haven't had a lot of results coming in for this one over the last little while.
And expected to flip-flop as well.
This has been stuck. Brandon West has been stuck.
It's a lead of 6 votes for Quentin Robinson for the NDP over Wayne Balkin. But again, early going, and this has been stuck 11 out of 17 polls reporting.
10 out of 26 polls reporting in Brandon East. Glenn Samard with 51.2% of the vote over Len Eastlifson with 44.7%, a difference of just 139 votes. Again, Kevin Hirschfield said, this is why your vote matters. We just look at those small differences. We continue to wait for more numbers from Elections Manitoba. We've still got an election call to make. Lots more to come, folks. Stay with us. Welcome back to Decision Manitoba on Global Winnipeg 680 CJOB. I'm Lisa Dutton with Richard Kluche and Loren McNabb. We've hit a bit of a glitch here with Elections Manitoba, folks. We are waiting patiently along with you.
Well, yeah, and it was working and then not working, and now it's not working again. We've been trying to load up the website
for Elections
results.
Manitoba.
Very difficult, and it's not showing.
I often call it the screen of death.
I do.
Work, you know, that spinning wheel,
doom.
and that sort of feels like what you're seeing right now. So here's hoping we get some stuff in soon.
Hoping. Okay, ministers currently falling behind. Some cabinet ministers will be losing their seats tonight. Who, what, where, when?
And this has stayed static. 2 out of 20 over the last half an hour now. Nellie Kennedy ahead just slightly for the NDP.
That was the Ministers of Seniors. He still could be, I mean, that one's too close to call. Kirkfield Park, we have a more healthy lead now for the NDP over Kevin Klein, Climate Minister.
That's nearly done, 25 out of 27.
And so then that will be potentially something we'll call. And then Jolene De La Cruz, this is a healthy lead over the Consumer Minister, James Teitzma, in Radisson, 786 votes over Teitzma there.
In Real, Mike Moyes, he is leading with 1,490 votes now over Rochelle Squires. She has 3,399. That's with 12 out of 18.
And that was your
reporting.
family's minister prior to dissolution.
And in Seine River, Billy Cross, the NDP candidate there, leading the Conservative incumbent Janice Morley-Lecomte by about 10% of the vote.
Our mental health minister. I'm just trying to go through the possibilities.
And that's a key riding. That's the southern blue wall that the cracks and it's starting to crumble down. Renee Cable for the NDP, a lead of 374 votes over Audrey Gordon, the health minister. It's been a lead all evening. She's been working that riding for over a year.
All right. Marnie Blunt is at NDP headquarters tonight. Marnie, going to toss it over to
the camera.
To me. All right, thanks for this, Lisa. Yeah, I'm down here right now with Robert Lazo's leading the way in St. Boniface. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling very excited. We've worked extremely hard over the last 2 years rebuilding the NDP in St. Boniface, and I'm really proud of our team, and we're here to have some fun tonight. And after that, I can't wait to get to work for the people of St. Boniface and my community.
Now, of course, we did see NDP Leader Wab Kinew appealing to Liberal voters, hoping to get the Liberal vote to the NDP. It appears to have done that in your riding. How much do you think that plays a role in the results tonight?
I think it helped. I think we also need to recognize that I have deep roots in St. Boniface. I was raised in St. Boniface. I teach in St. Boniface. And I think people recognize that they can trust me and trust the NDP to get our province back on track.
All right, Roberto, thank you so much for your time and congratulations on tonight. And we'll send that back to you in studio, Lisa.
All right, Marnie Blunt, thanks for that. We have team coverage tonight, reporters out at all the party headquarters. Did you have enough of a offering of feedback from Dougald Lamont's speech? I still feel that there was more to be said from him.
Well, at some point he's going to say a lot more.
It wasn't the time, yeah.
Wasn't the time. Loiselle ran a very good campaign. And again, focused on healthcare. He's a francophone from the area. Lamont was seen as an outsider. And voters in St. Boniface really do like one of their own. It's a small town, and there's still kind of that Catholic connection there as well. The French connection. Loiselle has that French connection. And, you know, Dougald Lamont should not be embarrassed because he ran a good campaign. He ran a relevant campaign. But when you've got a change election and when you've got people voting healthcare, Loren, you get caught.
Well, he said, you know, he got complimented for running a good campaign, and then sometimes in Manitoba, that's just not enough, Lisa. And so he conceded his seat at least an hour ago, I think we're looking at now.
But we haven't declared him.
We haven't declared him, but he decided he was done, and he was also done as leader, and so lots of changes for the Liberals.
For anyone just tuning in, yes, Dougald Lamont has stepped down. All right, David Aiken, what's happening, or should I say what's not happening?
Yeah, this is the, I'm holding the Elections Manitoba website. It's on my iPad, trying to load it up. It's like this for everybody, apparently. There's nothing there. That's the results page for Elections Manitoba.
Well, they want to see how long you can stay up, Dave.
Yeah, that's it. And I will stay up as long as it takes. But clearly, there's a problem. We haven't had any fresh results now for, you know, coming on close to half an hour. Something is not going on very well. I know, Richard, you've been in touch trying to get some, at least a statement from them. I would expect, you know, crisis management, you put a statement out because people are going, what's going on? But it's very important to point out, and you guys have been doing this, all the votes are paper ballots, period. They might be counted by an electronic machine that maybe not be working, but the paper ballots are theirs. Nothing to worry about. While we wait for some results, you know, I want to maybe take issue with what Dougal Lamont said, that the Liberal vote maybe wasn't having an effect. I mean, not take a look at that one. We did that a minute ago. Take a look at Waverley. Waverley, 633 votes for the Liberal candidate here. It's just an 83-vote lead for the NDP. If those Liberals had gone over to the NDP, we probably would have declared Waverley a while ago. Same thing in Lajeune-Modière. If we take a look at Andrew Smith, 35-vote lead, but over here we got 230 people voted Liberal. I think you've raised it inside the city of Winnipeg. The Liberal popular vote's like, what, 17% or something like that? There's a lot of ridings where a bunch of people voted Liberal, and that's why it is such a narrow plurality for the New Democrat. It really could have made a bigger difference to just put them over the edge and perhaps to a victory. So that's why it's still tight. That's why the PCs have this sort of slim hope right now. But, you know, who's got some slim hope for elections in Manitoba? That's really where we're at here, please. Looking for some fresh numbers. Do we still have a tie up in Kiwatinook? Yes, we still do. It's still 2-2 up in Kiwatinook, 2-2 New Democrats and the PCs. All right, I'm sure they'll get it together. They'll be starting counting by hand. Just do that. That's the way, the old-fashioned way, the best way. Start counting them up by hand. Back to you, Lisa.
All right, it's kind of like a minor hockey game, some of them. Hey, Loren, feeling that a little slow-moving sometimes. All right, we want to relay to you what we're hearing from Elections Manitoba. The votes are being counted. They're being reported. The problem is getting them out to us.
It's almost like you have your kids downstairs and you yell the message of them to come upstairs for supper, and the message went.
Yes.
It's just not getting there. And I don't want to make light of this.
Right.
It's serious times for people to figure out what's
going
going on.
But you're on your phone and it's just
somewhere.
going like this and like this and like this. And you're trying to shake your phone, you're trying to reboot your phone, and it's just not happening. I'm being told now it's going to be a few more minutes.
Okay, so it's getting close. You said earlier tonight, and David Akin was just talking about it, that Liberal vote can be deceptive in Winnipeg, Richard.
It really can be, because we're seeing in a pocket full of ridings where the NDP are ahead, and ahead slightly, where the Liberal vote is above that 10% mark. In some cases, it's making a difference. In South Winnipeg, it's not making a difference. The Liberals have a healthy lead, but some of those key ridings to the northeast and to the northwest of the city, the Liberal votes matter.
There's a look at the popular vote in Winnipeg. The NDP with 50.8%, the PCs with 31.9%, the Liberals 16%.
In a traditional election,
10% would have been, or above would have been good.
10% and above would help the progressive Conservatives. But if this is a change election, it doesn't matter as much.
All right, we're going to send it down to Liberal headquarters. Rosanna Hempel is there with Julie Buckingham tonight. And Dougal's speech, his interview with you after, it was tough to watch Dougal. He looked very emotional.
Yeah, it was tough to watch, and you know, the crowd here was really here to support him. They welcomed him with a big applause when he came in, and after he finished his speech, they all crowded around him and with their hands together and sang an Indigenous song. Yeah, people are actually leaving already. But before, they're not going to catch Cindy Lamoureux, who we hear is going to be making a speech here in just a few, very shortly here. What are you expecting to hear in that speech, Julie?
Well, it's going to be very difficult. We'll also hear from Dr. John Gerard, who is a long-time Liberal, held his seat for many, many years, was a one-time leader as well. And the point is, we're not surprised that Dougal Lamont stepped down. Is trying to say, you know, it's difficult to lead when you don't have a seat, and so it makes sense that he step aside. So that does leave Cindy Lamoureux on her own, and so that is going to make it very difficult for her as she goes forward in the House. Fortunately, she's not a rookie MLA, so she is going to have that opportunity of understanding how the system works, and again, she'll be able to rely on her father, who is a Liberal MP, as she goes forward. But again, it's difficult to see what will happen when we do hear the numbers about the popular vote being up pretty significantly in some areas, and we're even seeing that seesaw battle even in Heather Stefanson's riding. And if you see those Liberal votes go to the NDP, that's a different race, and the same for Southdale. Perhaps we'll see Robert Falcon-Ouellette take the reins of this party, even though he doesn't have a seat at this point. Perhaps he would look to lead it in the future. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, we'll leave it there, and we'll bring the latest from Cindy Lamoureux when she comes in. We'll throw it back to the studio.
All right, Rosanna, Julie, thank you. The numbers are moving. This is promising. The NDP leading or elected in 33 ridings, the PC's 23, the Liberals 1. Let's take a look at where the gains and the losses are right now. At dissolution, the NDP had 18 seats. They are leading or elected in 33 ridings, a gain of 15.
Tories, the opposite, really. They had 35 seats at dissolution. They're leading and elected in 23, so that's a loss for them of 12 seats so far.
The popular vote in Manitoba, the NDP with 44.6% of the vote, the PCs with 41.8% of the vote, and the Liberals with 11.7%.
You think about the change in the last election, Lisa. The NDP had just 31% of the popular vote, and they're now at 44%. Explains a bit of what we're seeing here with the numbers. And so, again, NDP leading or elected in 33 seats.
All right, Kevin Hirschfield at PC Party headquarters with Hal Anderson. Things are moving again, Kevin. The numbers are starting to budge again. This is good.
You know what? I was about to ask you, Hal, if you brought your pajamas and a pillow and a sleeping bag, because I sure didn't. It looked like we were going to be in for a long night, but it looks like the numbers are moving again.
Well, listen, and I like to share with the audience, Kevin just leaned over and said to me, are we in overtime territory yet? So I'm glad to see the results coming in. You know what, though? I feel for the candidates, especially the ones in tight races, right? Watching no numbers come in. Can you imagine being a candidate in one of those, especially in one of those really tight races, and seeing the numbers not come in? We're almost 2.5 hours into this. We're 20 after 10, and so I'll stay here as long as you want me to, Kevin. I'm just a few steps away from the food, so we're okay.
One of those close ridings I saw just change on our feed, Laja Modier, Tyler Blasco jumping ahead of Andrew Smith, so that's not something. Quickly, how Heather Stefanson has had low approval ratings since she came into power. Can you quickly kind of guess why that's been, why she hasn't been able to, get in Manitoba's big bucks here?
She got off to a bad start in a couple ways, talking about her son's big hockey win at a time when it should have happened at a different time. Dougal Lamont stepping down as the Liberal leader. Will we see something similar here tonight at PC headquarters? We have to wait and see, but who knows?
We'll see what the numbers show. Back to you guys.
All right, Kevin and Hal, thank you. We still haven't made an election call, but no shortage of storylines, and we have some close races. We all have those ridings that we're watching closely. Assiniboia NDP candidate Nellie Kennedy ahead of Scott Johnson. She has over 50% of the vote. PC candidate Scott Johnson has 40.3%, difference of about 500 votes right now.
This one continues to be tight in Kildonan and River East. We're seeing movements in some of the polls reporting, but not so much here. 17 of 24 polls reporting Rochelle Schott up by 149 votes over the PC candidate.
Tyler Blasco now ahead in Laja Modier. It's a slight lead of 40 votes against the incumbent Progressive Conservative Cabinet Minister Andrew Smith.
All right, in Tuxedo, Heather Stefanson is in the lead. This is about 326 vote lead, 22 out of 26 polls reporting, so we're getting closer.
All right, hold on that board if you can, because the Liberal vote makes a huge difference in Tuxedo. You add the Liberals and the NDP together in Tuxedo, that defeats Heather Stefanson so far. 22 of 26 polls reporting. That's close. You've got a premier 326 vote lead.
And in the last election, she won that riding by 4,645 votes. And her lead right now is 326. Again, not all polls reporting. Let's get to Waverley.
In Waverley, David Pankratz, the NDP candidate, leading with just a handful of votes, 51 votes, 9 out of 12 polls reporting. We've said it earlier tonight, your vote matters. This is why.
Mick Phillips, the lead right now for the Conservatives is 42. There was no incumbent running here. It was a Tory riding. It's only been around since 2019, and so we have 13 of 21 polls reporting to Mick Phillips, a lead of 42 for the Tories over the NDP.
But that's, again, one of those ridings that North Winnipeg and also the suburban areas, the capital region area. So you've got two very distinct voters in that McPhillips riding. But the shocker right now is Tuxedo. Heather Stefanson's being sent a message by her own constituents.
All right, we have a few more numbers to digest here. David Aiken, going to send it over to you now.
Yeah, Heather Stefanson, I think, looking at the overall picture, being sent a message by many Manitobans, in fact. We finally have that tie broke up in Kiwatinock. I felt obligated to report it, everybody. And so it is unfolding there as I would have expected. Ian Bushy, the incumbent New Democrat, now has a 330 vote lead over the Progressive Conservative candidate Michael Birch. 12 polls all of a sudden reporting out of 45. And I was looking at that Elections Manitoba website. It was up, it was down. But what it did tell me, the last time I checked, the closest race right now in the province, just in terms of actual votes, is in Brandon West. Brandon West, I think you mentioned this, Richard, Quentin Robinson leading by 12 votes. That's the closest race in the province right now. Wayne Balkin is the Progressive Conservative. No incumbent here. This is Wayne Balkin's first entry into politics after leaving the post of Brandon Police Chief. Brandon East is still in the NDP column, but there Glenn Simard has started to open things up. Let's take a look and see where that's going. Yeah, you can see how the lead narrowed a little bit after 40% of the polls, but has been widening in the favor of the NDP in Brandon East. Certainly that is a riding that if the NDP win Brandon East, I said this at the beginning of the night, I think if they win Brandon East, they certainly are going to win government. That's the kind of telltale riding it is. But again, right now in the north, things holding the way you would expect for the NDP. The surprise pickups right now for the NDP are in the two Brandons. They haven't won those together since 2003. But Brandon West, the closest race in the province right now, 12 votes. And by the way, I don't know if we've mentioned this, right? Any riding where the plurality is 50 votes or less, automatic judicial recount. So it looks like we're on our way to doing that in Brandon West. Back to you now, Lisa.
All right, thanks to you, David Aiken. We want to show you a board now. Global News is projecting that Rochelle Squires has lost her post in Real.
So we have Mike Moyes of the NDP projecting them to win there. This is interesting because Rochelle Squires was well liked in the party and even outside the party as individual. So that means if Heather Stefanson potentially decides to move on at some point, she's also not a viable option here.
Yeah, and that's very disappointing. I spoke to Rochelle Squires about 2 weeks ago. She said, I'm in a very tight race. We'll see what it means. She did not look confident then, and she is projected to be losing tonight in a very key riding, and that's part of that blue wall in South Winnipeg. And this is really looking, by the way, like 1999, where the Liberals had very few seats, the NDP had 32 seats, and the Progressive Conservatives coming in just under 25. This is a setup, ladies and gentlemen, for 1999 all over again.
Are we going to party like it's 1999?
Alanis Morissette or something. I think we need to queue up for that one.
All right, Marnie Blunt at NDP headquarters, along with 680 CJOB's Greg Mackling. How's it going down there?
Well, you know, Lisa, last time we checked in with you, we said that as the results kind of slowed down, so did the mood in here. It was a little bit of in a holding pattern. Now we're starting to see things pick back up. There's a lot more cheering, a lot more energy, a lot more people who moved out of the room are now moving back into the room and hoping that they're going to have the outcome that they've been looking for.
There was a very loud cheer a few moments ago, and there was a gigantic surge from the rest of the 7th floor as people made their way into this room, anticipating, wondering what was going on, not unlike leaving a football game early and you get in the parking lot and you hear a roar from the stadium. Why didn't I go? Why did I leave? A little bit of that right now. Some incredible anticipation right now here at NDP headquarters.
You can hear that energy. It's also kind of like leaving a concert and then they do a second encore.
I love that. I love that analogy.
All right, we'll send that back to you, Lisa.
I thought Marnie was going to be reining him in, but he's in fact flipping Marnie.
Yeah,
he's Gregifying Marnie.
I have heard back from Elections Manitoba, and they are telling us now there was an issue with the website and the data feed. Results continue to be reported, and we are back up and running. With the new technology and processes there, it's somewhat of a learning curve with reporting the results. Voting officials are working with our support teams to get the results reported just as soon as they are available. That's official from Elections Manitoba.
Brand new system there in terms of tabulating the votes in most of the ridings. And so, of course, there will be a full postmortem on how this worked and how to approve upon it. But it's also one of the reasons, because the results have been coming slowly, Lisa, that we're not able to declare things just yet because it's too tight in some spots.
About 5 races right now are still too close to call. We're going to send it down. Are we going to take a look at the close races? Sorry, or are we going to send it down to PC with Kev and Hal? Oh, popular vote. Sorry about that.
Well, and this is interesting. The New Democratic Party, just under 50% of popular vote in Winnipeg. The PC's at 33.1. The Liberals, 15.9. It's a high popular vote for the Liberals, but it has not materialized in seats in Winnipeg other than Cindy Lamoureux.
All right, and here we take a look at the popular vote outside of Winnipeg. The PCs with 56.3%, the NDP 35.8%, the Liberals 4.8%. Kevin Hirschfield is at PC headquarters with 680 CJOB's Hal Anderson. I was talking to Hal just yesterday. We talked briefly about the polls. What does Hal have to say this hour, Kev?
Well, I want to ask, well, Richard Kluche says it's starting to feel like 1999.
Yeah.
What do you remember about 1999?
Oh, boy, you mean with the election or?
Just in general.
I think I was doing bar gigs on Power 97 in 99. I don't know if we want to talk about that on an election show.
A lot of late nights like this.
A lot of late nights like this, very similar to this, yeah. I'll just say this, that however this plays out, there will be some high-profile conservatives that will no longer be around. And there will be many new faces with the NDP, no matter how this goes down. And I'll just at least ask me about the polls.
Yeah.
Let me just say this about the polls. The polling wasn't far off, right? We just saw the popular vote inside Winnipeg and outside Winnipeg across Manitoba. The numbers are kind of what the pollsters said they would be. But of course, and the Liberals know all about this tonight, it comes down to the efficiency of those votes, right? And the Liberals only get one seat tonight at this point. And we'll see where the others end up.
You know, one number I want to bring out, since June of last year, there have been 15 either members of the PC caucus who have said, we're leaving caucus or we're not running again. That's since June of last year, 15 members. So you wonder what their thoughts were from June 22 and throughout all this time until now. You wonder what their thoughts were when they said they weren't going to run again. Did they envision something like we're potentially seeing tonight? So that's something. Quickly, Hal, I just want to go back again to what your listeners have been saying the last few days. I know we've touched on it a little bit throughout the night here, but what were your listeners saying that maybe foreshadowed numbers like this and what we're seeing right now?
You know, I definitely sense that change was in the air, right? Richard and David have talked a couple times tonight about a change election. If these numbers hold up, change was in the air. And I think it was on a big issue like healthcare. The other issues mattered, but not as much as healthcare. And the NDP zoned in on that, and it's working for them.
How busy do you expect those phone lines tomorrow?
They will be busy tomorrow. Connecting Winnipeg, 10 to noon.
That's 10 a.m. for now. We'll go back to you guys. We still got a long night to go potentially here.
All right, David Akin joins us now with a look at some of the close races.
Well, actually, what I wanted to do was maybe just let's step back a second and look at the change that's happening in a little broader thing. This is the electoral map of Winnipeg right now. There's a lot of orange, and let me flash back to where we started, 2019. That's where the NDP and Liberals were at the beginning of the night, and that's where they were now. So big gains in southern Winnipeg, South Winnipeg. That was going to be the toughest spot, I thought, for the NDP to make gains. So far, they're doing very well. Also on the west side of the city, Assiniboia, Kirkfield Park, and moving back to really reclaim some of their strength in the northeast, and specifically in Rossmere, where it's still a pretty close race. Well, that one's going to be over, I think, pretty soon. Tracy Schmidt has a 670 vote lead with just one poll to go. So 670 votes for New Democrat Tracy Schmidt in Rossmere, and Kildonan River East. That's a close one we've been looking at a lot during the night. Rochelle Scott, no incumbent in this particular race. NDP, Rochelle Scott trying to steal it for her team, and Alana Van Elm, 17 and 24 votes of there. McPhillips has flipped back to the PC side. We've been watching this tonight, and as you can see, we just had a lead change there. The NDP had been leading all night, but now the PCs are in top. So some big changes again, 2019, and there's 2023 as we look at it right now, Lisa.
All right, NDP leading or elected in 33 ridings, the PCs 23, the Liberals 1. We're going to take a really quick break, folks. We still have an election call to make. Stay with us. It's Decision Manitoba on Global Winnipeg and 680 CJOB. Welcome back to Decision Manitoba. I'm Lisa Dutton here with Loren McNabb, Richard Cloutier, and Global News Chief Political Correspondent David Aiken.
I'm here in the corner.
It's getting late, yes, and our numbers are shifting again. The NDP leading or elected in 31 ridings, the PC's 25, the Liberals 1. It's been a marathon so far.
Well, and it's a very difficult path to victory for the progressive Conservatives here. And, you know, the New Democrats leading and elected in 31, pretty confident. Again, I had mentioned 1999. In 1999, the NDP had won 32 seats, 24 the Progressive Conservatives, and the Liberals 1 seat. So very similar result, healthcare change election at the time as well. But there's still a handful of very close ridings. We're not sure whether that goes minority or majority territory. So stay with us here. We're going to get it right.
We're talking about 3 ridings right now where we've seen some change. So in Lagimodiere, the Tories have taken it back, but just by 60 votes. Brandon West, the PCs have taken it back. That's the former chief of police there by 46 votes. And then in Waverley, we've got the NDP ahead there at 65. So that's still just, you know, a handful of vote differences there. And we still have some polls yet to come in. So it's why it's taken some time.
Still going back and forth. Marnie Blunt is at NDP headquarters. Hey, Marnie.
Hey, Lisa, there's a lot of energy here tonight. And right now I'm joined by Logan Oxenham of Kirkfield Park. How are you feeling about it? It's a difficult riding you have. How are you feeling about how tonight's going?
I'm feeling really positive, feeling really great. You know, I've been knocking on thousands of doors in Kirkfield Park, and people are telling me that they're looking forward to a change. And we're feeling really good about the results tonight so far, and I'm excited to get to work.
We heard some big cheers for you. We heard someone saying you're making history tonight. What is the message to the people in your riding who chose to vote for you?
Well, a huge thank you to the folks at Kirkfield Park, the good folks who work hard, go to work every day, and want to see their families having a good life. And you know, I really connected with people in Kirkfield Park, and I'm looking forward to working really hard for the good folks at Kirkfield Park.
All right, well, thanks so much, and all the best. Thanks for joining us. All right, we'll send that back to you in studio, Lisa.
All right, thanks, Marnie. Let's take a look at what's happening outside Winnipeg right now. We have some numbers to show you here. In Brandon West, the PC candidate leading by just 46 votes, 14 out of 17 polls reporting.
This is no incumbent in that riding, but it's also, I think, almost always been Tory. So we'll see if he can hang on to that 46 vote lead.
Gord Wood is ahead by 153 votes in Dauphin over the NDP's Ron Kostitian.
That's about half the polls reporting there. And in Dawson Trail, 11 out of 17 polls reporting. The PC candidate incumbent with 50.9% of the vote, Bob Legacy, over the NDP's Chris Wiebe. He has 44.6%. Rosanna Hempel is with Cindy Lamoureux. This is an interview we've been waiting for tonight, guys.
That's right, Lisa. I'm here with Cindy Lamoureux, re-elected to Tyndall Park. You mentioned in your speech that this is a bittersweet moment, that you're going to feel very alone in the. I think they have to leave us here. Let's see. Sorry, we'll throw it back to the studio.
Want to hear from Cindy? Nope, we're not. Okay, Heather Stefanson is walking in. Sorry about that. We're going to hit Conservative Party headquarters now.
So, of course, we've been waiting to hear from the Tory leader, and we're going to bring her up on the screen now as soon as we can.
And for your tremendous support. It's been an incredible honor for me to serve Manitoba for the past 23 years. And I'd like to thank... And I'd like to thank each and every one of you who have given me the immense privilege. I have been a candidate for 7 elections, and I respect the will of the voters. And today, the voters have spoken. I want to thank the residents of the great constituency of Tuxedo. I have served the community for the last 23 years. It's my family. It's a place where my family have called home for generations. Moments ago, I called Wab Kinew to congratulate him on becoming the next Premier of Manitoba. Mr. Kinew, I don't always agree on everything, but like me, I know that he loves this province and he loves the people of Manitoba. And I wish him all the best and will make every effort in a smooth transition in the premiership. This election was a very important one, and the historic nature of Mr. Kinew's victory must be acknowledged here this evening. Wab, I hope that your win tonight inspires a future generation of Indigenous youth to get involved in our democratic process, not just here in Manitoba, but right across the country. Wab, congratulations for that. So there are a few thank yous that I'd like to make this evening to our campaign co-chairs, to Candace Bergen and to Joe Bova, to my campaign manager and friend, Marnie Larkin, and there are so many others who have played an integral role in this campaign. You know who you are, and from the bottom of my heart, I thank each and every one of you for being involved in this incredible campaign. To our team of candidates, to our volunteers and members, thank you for putting your trust in me and for stepping up to serve your community. I also want to recognize those who are not with us this evening and who have represented their communities very diligently over the course of the last number of years, those MLAs who were not re-elected tonight. My heart goes out to you, and I thank each and every one of you for representing your communities with dignity. Thank you so much for your service to Manitoba. And to our newly elected MLAs from all sides of the House, I offer special congratulations. I remember the excitement I felt when I first was elected that night, and I hope you feel the same way. You have captured the optimism and the confidence of your community. Congratulations to each and every one of you this evening. We all know, those of us who have put our name on the ballot in the past, that we can't do this on our own. We can't do this without the support of our family. To Jason, to Victoria, to Tommy, who are here with me tonight, thank you for always standing with me. Thank you for being there with me. We know that there has been some great times in the past 23 years, and there's been some challenging times, no doubt. But every step of the way you have been with me, and I could not have done it without you. Thank you so much. Tonight, I stand before you feeling honored to have served as your Premier. Together, we have been able to accomplish so much in just under 2 years. We have faced unprecedented challenges, including a global pandemic, the unjust war in Ukraine, and challenging economic times. Yet we were able to move Manitoba forward. We implemented the largest personal income tax cuts in Manitoba history. We made our province... We made our province more competitive. We made significant advancements in economic reconciliation with Indigenous communities. We brought the budget back to balance while making historic investments in healthcare, in education, and in social services. Our progressive Conservative government has set up our province for great success. Now, I have served in opposition in the past, so I understand the fundamental role that opposition plays in our democracy. As we head to the other side of the House, I can tell Manitobans that the team of PC MLAs that you elected tonight will keep fighting for you, and we will hold the new government's feet to the fire. But friends, it is with a heavy heart tonight that I am announcing that I will be stepping down as the leader of the Progressive Conservative Party of Manitoba. And I look forward to meeting with caucus and the party executive to prepare the path forward from tonight. And I look forward to working with the party to ensure a smooth process is in place to replace me as your leader. It has been the honor of my life, serving the people of Manitoba with the many roles that I have held over the years. And I thank all Manitobans from the bottom of my heart for giving me the privilege to serve as the first women premier in this beautiful province of ours. Thank you so much tonight.
All right, Heather Stefanson has conceded it's going to be an NDP win. However, Global News has not yet projected an NDP majority. Let's start with you, David Akin, your reaction.
Well, sir, I'll let you react first, Lauren, because you said it, that she looked like a real person. Like the people, I don't know Heather Stefanson as well as you all do, but I've heard she's a wonderful person. People who work for her said that's her, but we did see, what do they call her, Heartless Heather at times, and that wasn't the real Heather Stefanson. But that was a classy speech, a gracious speech, just the right length of a speech.
As she was talking, I was thinking to myself, well, there she is. The people that, they were talking about the reason why we weren't necessarily seeing her in these media availabilities or in these big announcements is that she really worked better in a room in those one-on-one situations. And I felt like she connected right there. And for the past 4 weeks and maybe past 2 years, people have been arguing that they haven't been feeling that connection. She's warm. She's talking about her kids, hugging them, and acknowledging the difficult path that she's been on. I'm not saying that's all that was missing and then that would have made a difference.
Well,
these last 2 years.
She didn't seem to have her heart in it the last month.
But I also wonder how much of a relief is now.
Well, and that's what I saw. I saw
a
relief on her face. I think she's known this result for some weeks now. She decided really not to campaign, whether it was her people deciding to sit her out. But interestingly enough, the face of the party, out of the three voices of the party in the last 3 weeks, only one has survived so far. Rochelle Squires goes down. Kevin Klein is not expected to win. We'll see if he can hang on or not. But Calvin Gertson in Steinbach is winning again. And there's going to be all sorts of pressure, again, on Calvin Gertson to at least take the helm of the party in the interim. But whether or not there's enough people that say, Calvin Gertson, you did a good job as Premier, maybe you should lead this party. And I know for a conversation coming up, we'll talk about possible candidates here for that Tory leadership. But I'll tell you, they're already lining up.
All right, we're going to take it down to Marnie Blunt and Greg Mackling at NDP headquarters now. Marnie?
Well, as you can tell behind me, this room is full of energy and full of an attitude like they have one. Of course, Global News projecting a win, not a majority. But really, it's been kind of that theme in here all night tonight.
No question. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride, but for the most part, it's been the good part of the roller coaster. And so we're not exactly at the end of the ride yet, but of course Heather Stefanson's concession speech unfortunately wasn't played in this room. I thought it was very gracious, very conciliatory, and something that a lot of people in this room would have liked to have heard. And of course, unless people are glued to their phones and speaking to one another, they may not even be aware of the fact that Heather Stefanson has stepped down. They probably don't care at this moment.
And hopefully we will be hearing from Wab Kinew shortly. They have asked people to clear this room into another room and try to make some space, so hopefully we will also hear from Wab as well soon. I'll send that back to you, Lisa.
All right, we just want to round up the numbers for you right now. The NDP leading or elected in 31 ridings, the PC 25, the Liberals 1. Some people scratching their heads right now.
Can you add 2 more numbers to that list? We're now down 2 leaders. A couple hours ago, Dougald Lamont of the Liberal Party, he announced that he was done as leader of the Liberals. And just moments ago, we heard the leader of the Conservative Party, Heather Stefanson, saying that after 23 years as an MLA and then the Premier for the past 2 years, she's also done for politics for now. So we are also down 2 numbers there.
The magic number is 29. The NDP have achieved that. But there are still a couple of races that we're looking at. We have projected an NDP government. We're not quite yet going that far as a majority is concerned. Now, it could flip 2 ways. It looks like it'll flip more NDP in the minutes ahead when, you look at the trends in some of those key ridings. More of them are headed towards the NDP than the Progressive Conservatives.
All right, minutes away. Kevin Hirschfield is at PC Party headquarters with Hal Anderson.
Thought it was possibility. Heather Stefanson just moments ago. Oh, I'm going to turn my mic on. Hal, go ahead and just your reaction.
I referenced that we might see this earlier on. We did. She has stepped down as leader. We don't know if this is going to be a minority. It seems we're heading for an NDP government. Will it be a minority or majority? We haven't called that yet. We'll wait and see. But she has conceded, and so she says Wab Kinew is the next Premier of Manitoba. Who might replace her? Let's see who's left standing. Abby Khan is one that I can think of. We'll see who's left standing, who will take over as the Tory leader in Manitoba.
Abby Khan, perhaps a rising star in this party.
Yeah.
We saw he won maybe by more than some thought. Is that a guy you're watching as a potential rising star?
Yeah, I think Abby Khan would definitely throw his hat in the ring. Yeah, we'll see, though.
Yes, all right, we'll go back to you guys.
All right, Kevin, Hal, thanks for that. As we continue to wait on a very small handful of ridings, we have got word that Wab Kinew will be coming out soon, speaking soon. I believe we're going to be taking that right away here. Let's take a look at NDP headquarters now as the shot gets set up. We just heard from Heather Stefanson earlier tonight. We heard from Dougald Lamont. This one sure to have more of a celebratory tone, but it is a few minutes away yet. We're watching a small handful of ridings, and we're going to explain to you why things are so close right now. These numbers right now, NDP leading or elected in 31 ridings, the PC's 25, the Liberals 1. David, I'll put the ball in your court now.
So let's talk about that. We get our results from Elections Manitoba, as I think we've been telling you. There are 4 ridings out there where the difference between first and second is less than 100 votes. The closest race in the province right now is McPhillips, where the PCs are up by 39 votes over the New Democrats. So that's McPhillips, leaning PC, but it still could go NDP. Lots of polls still to report. That's McPhillips. Lajamodiere is the 3rd closest in the province right now, where Andrew Smith, the PC incumbent, has a 62-vote lead, but we still have 7 or 8 polls still to report from Elections Manitoba. I'm going to take it to the 2nd closest riding in, and that is in Brandon. Sorry, that's Bruce Woods. That's not close at all. Let me pull it up right here. There we are in Brandon West, a 46-vote lead for the PCs. And the last one, yes, we're going to go flipping back to Winnipeg, and we're down again in Waverley. John Reyes at David Pancrack's locked into it, 65 votes. So we get this from Elections Manitoba. And yes, I know, we just saw Heather Stefanson concede to Wab Kinew. The parties have their own scrutineers at every ballot box. So the parties can make their own calculations about who is going to win. All we can say right now at Global News is, based on the data that we get from Elections Manitoba, it looks like it's going to be an NDP government, but can we say majority or minority? And if it's a minority, well, that would be Cindy Lamoureux holding the balance of power, and maybe we should get her back and see what she has to say. But that's why at this point we're not ready to go majority NDP, because there's 4 ridings out there where it's less than 100 votes. There's another half dozen ridings where it's less than 200 votes. So we just need to wait to get more data from Elections Manitoba. That's been the real hiccup all night long, is very slow data feeds from the Elections Authority in this province.
You bet it has been slow going as we watch Wab Kinew walk into NDP headquarters. Richard?
He will be the next Premier of Manitoba, but we're telling you the races are close simply because the NDP in Waverley are ahead only by 62 votes. In Lajimodiere, they're ahead by 69 votes, and in Kildonan
So
River
the
East,
NDP are ahead in Lajimodiere
they're
now?
ahead by
Well, that's just a flip.
175.
Right now. Yeah.
So it flips now, and those are the tight races. In Dauphin, the Dauphin candidate, Ron Costician, is now ahead by 3 votes. So you've got some flipping going on here. It's all going towards the NDP, but a very happy and proud Wab Kinew, Loren.
If you're watching on TV right now, you have Wab Kinew just walking into the Fort Garry. I just wanted to let our listeners in on what they're hearing in the background, because you have a whole mess of people. I'm just going to say it's just a wall-to-wall in the hallways. He's trying to make his way towards the ballroom, and coming behind him is his wife, his youngest son. He's got 3 kids all together. I thought I saw Abi Khan in the background.
No.
But that would make sense because he's a Tory. So that is really not going to happen there. But there's going to be a whole bunch of people wanting to wish him well, because this is also a historic moment.
We just heard and saw an unexpectedly softer side of Heather Stefanson. What are you expecting from Wab's speech, Loren?
Well, I think he's got a lot to say here about just connecting with the people. I mean, yes, you're talking about walking in here with 33 potential seats. 10 over the Conservatives, David, but it was a divisive campaign. And so as a leader, I think you have to come in here, and as a premier of the country in these difficult times, premier of the province rather, in these difficult times, you have to come in here and set a tone of it working together.
Well, I think, and again, I'll speak from someone outside the province looking in, the historic moment here when we think of the age of reconciliation we're in. Well, reconciliate right here. Look at that. We have our first First Nations person who's going to be the premier of a province. That's significant for the rest of the country. But as you know, Wab has always said, I want to be the premier of all Manitobans, right? He said that consistently in the campaign.
And David,
he's got a chance now. That is going to be his speech. I'm the premier for all Manitobans. I'm not just the First Nations premier, even though, in my way of thinking, that's pretty darn significant. And I'm glad I'm here to see that.
And about those humble roots coming up. The path for him right now is through this very tight crowd of media and supporters at the Hotel Fort Garry. He's going to talk about that upbringing, but he's also going to thank Heather Stefanson for the way she has handled herself this evening, and Dougald Lamont as well, as Wab Kinew walks up. But he's also going to reach out to all of Manitobans. He knows he can be, and has in the past been, a divisive figure. This is his opportunity here.
Well, he's been a divisive figure, if you ask me, because his opponents have tried to use those things in his past to quite frankly, it's a little bit objectionable the way.
But David, he has changed his attitude over the last 5 years.
He doesn't have the chip on his shoulder.
I have seen him mature,
way more measured
as a leader and as a human being. He's really matured in the last 5 years. He's taken the advice. Before, he was very much like when we're all young. We know it all. He's actually matured, and he's listened.
We think back to 2019, you're talking about today's Wab Kinew. Did you ever think, Richard, back in 2019 that we'd be here tonight?
Yeah, I spoke to him when he won the leadership, and I said, it's going to take you a couple of cracks at the can here. Are you in it for the long haul? He looked me in the eye and he said, yeah, absolutely. I'm here for the long haul. And it took a while for people to trust him. The moment in the campaign was when Gary Dewar endorsed him. He had early the endorsement of Lloyd Axworthy, the former Liberal MP. That certainly helped, but to get Gary Dewar's endorsement was huge for him.
He's in the room now at the Fort Garry hugging Jamie Moses. He just hugged Nahani Fontaine. They've been with him for the last term and one before that. All his supporters who have been in it for the long haul since he was elected, saying that we're here for you if you're in it for the long haul.
He's also got to deliver on these promises. And as Dougald Lamont quite capably pointed out in debates, you don't have a fiscal plan that's going to stand up. How are you going to find the nurses and doctors to open those emergency rooms? He now must deliver. This is the thing. Congratulations, you've won. Oh, the bad news is you've won. There's a lot. He's made a lot of promises.
Young family behind him.
Good point. He's at the podium finally now. He's got a microphone near him, and we expect to hear him saying, "How do you do? I'm Wab Kinew."
Hey, I hope he says that. That has been a line every day of the week for the last 4 weeks.
Here we go.
This is a great victory for us. This is a great victory for all of us in Manitoba. Wow. Manitoba, my dear, sweet Manitoba, look at what we have done here tonight. You know, a lot of people in the big cities, they look down on us here in Manitoba. Flyover country, they said. Winnipeg, man, it's cold out, they said. But look what little old Manitoba did tonight.
Manitoba was the first province to give women the right to vote. Manitoba's done a lot of very notable things. Manitoba did something more progressive than any of those big cities ever did. We elected a strong team of New Democrats to fix health care and make your life more affordable. To the people in healthcare, to the people working in the bedside today, to the people thinking of pursuing a career, to healthcare workers across the country, in other provinces around the world, I have a simple message to you. We need you. We are doing exciting things with healthcare here in Manitoba. We're going to build new emergency rooms. We're going to build a new cancer care headquarters. More clinician researchers to bring the best quality care to you, the people of Manitoba. And so, for all the people out there who work in healthcare, we need you. The nurses, the doctors, the healthcare professionals, the healthcare aides, we need you to work with us to build something special here in the healthcare system in Manitoba. I want to speak to the young Nietzsches out there. I want to speak to young people from all backgrounds. Really, I want to speak to people of all ages, but I want to speak to young Nietzsches in particular. I was given a second chance in life. And I would like to think that I've made good on that opportunity. And you can do the same. Here's how. My life became immeasurably better when I stopped making excuses and I started looking for a reason. And I found that reason in our family. I found that reason in our community. And I found that reason in our province and country. And so to young people out there who want to change your life for the better, you can do it. But here's the thing. You have to want it. You have to want it. If you want to leave the party lifestyle behind, it has to be you to make the decision. If you want to join the workforce, get a new career, it has to be you to take the first step. And if you're dealing with some kind of illness and you want to find healing, it has to be you to decide to move forward. I can't do that for you. A government can't do that for you. You have to be the first to take the first step. But here is what our government can do. Looking at the team right now, government. Sounds pretty good, huh? But here's what our government can do. If you decide to take the first step and leave the addictions behind, our government will make sure that there is a path to recovery for you. If you decide to go to work
our government will make sure that there is a training program with a good job at the end of it waiting for you. And if you decide to get out of bed one more day to fight the cancer, then our government is going to make sure that you have the best quality cancer care of anywhere in the world right here in Manitoba. I want more Manitobans to hear those 4 magic words. You are cancer-free. And so to young people who are looking for a positive path, I want to share the words that my father always told us. Ando buachigek. Seek your vision. Seek your vision. Dreams come true. To people in rural Manitoba, to people in northern Manitoba, I want to say thank you for sending people from your communities to sit with our team at the Manitoba legislature. And to people in rural Manitoba who haven't voted for us yet, I would ask you to keep an open mind. And if our team delivers, if after a few years we have improved your health care and we've made your life more affordable, I would humbly ask that in 4 years' time you send more people from your communities to sit with our team in the Manitoba legislature. To the business community, I look forward to sitting down with you. And you know that one of my fundamental political beliefs is that the economic horse pulls the social cart. But tonight, the Manitoba NDP is going to rock the house. I want to thank the outgoing Premier, Heather Stefanson. I want to thank you for your service to our province. I want to thank you for your service to our province and country. You were the first woman Premier of Manitoba, and I look forward to working with you on an orderly transition as we stand up Manitoba's next government, a Manitoba NDP government. And to the people of Manitoba, on behalf of our team, I want to express tremendous gratitude for this awesome responsibility that you have bestowed upon us. I want to say thank you, because at the start of this campaign, our team made a decision. We chose to believe in you. We chose to believe that given the choice, you, the people of Manitoba, would embrace a positive campaign focused on the future, focused on fixing healthcare and making the economy more affordable, and that you would reject the divisive message sent by our opponents. And I want to thank you for investing your trust in us. But really, I want to thank you for showing the rest of Canada and the world what we have known all along. The people of Manitoba are good people. And so there will be challenging times ahead, I'm sure. I'm sure that not every day is going to be easy, but I can promise you that every single day this Manitoba NDP team is going to get up and work our hardest to serve you, the people of Manitoba. And I know that the road ahead will not be easy. But there is one thing that the results of tonight's vote show crystal clear. And it is we can do amazing things when we stand together as one province. We can accomplish awesome tasks when we stand together as one people. And there is no challenge that we cannot meet when we unite as one Manitoba. Miigwech. Merci. Thank you very much.
All right, Wab Kinew's speech, speaking exactly what we talked about.
There's just one more thing. Just one more thing. This is my mom. Today is her birthday. And her name is Kathy. Okay, her name is Kathy. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kathy.
All right, Wab Kinew speaking not just to the NDP party about the victory, but calling it a victory for all Manitobans. Let's start with you, Loren. Reaction.
Well, first off, he acknowledged, and I think in a really simple way, the fact that he's become the first First Nations Premier of Manitoba. Manitoba has had a Métis Premier before. We haven't had a First Nations Premier. Of course, the territories have elected different premiers along the way, but this is a first for First Nations in Canada. And he acknowledged that with the idea that look at how progressive Manitoba is. And to those who look outside in on Manitoba and think we can't do this, we can't move forward, we can't be the ones to sort of be on the map. Well, now we're on the map for this. But then he moved on. It was a special moment, but then he moved on from that.
The message of reconciliation, of coming together, is an important one. He appreciates the history that is being made tonight. But I couldn't help but think that with his mom there on her birthday, this is something that Gary Doer would have done. Played to the crowd, hamming it up a little bit. He's got that charm and charisma of a Gary Doer-like figure. Now, is he a one-term wonder, or can he build this and bring the party and keep the party, the New Democrats, in kind of that lane that all Manitobans can identify with, kind of that mushy middle? That's going to be so important in the next year, 100 days, and the next year for the New Democrats. They're going to celebrate this, but he has a lot of thinking to do about cabinet making and the type of focus his government is going to have. He is very, very keyed in on what Gary Doer did in this province, being Premier for 10 years. He would like to do that. But the key for him and his strategy and what he does is that middle of the road, embrace some tax cuts, embrace kind of the finances, fix healthcare, but again, stay in that mainstream while moving policy towards traditional NDP targets.
And you see one thing too, because he's an incumbent, he's going to be taking over at a time in an economic cycle where we're just starting recoveries, inflation is starting to ease. pickup. He's sort of in a sweet spot there in that 4 years from now, we assume that overall global conditions will be improved and that hopefully the war in Ukraine will end, et cetera, et cetera. So he's had a good bit of good fortune. I've got my board behind me, guys. I just thought I'd go right back to where we were 3 hours and 14 minutes ago. Do you remember when I sketched out that blue wall of cabinet ministers starting in Radisson and going all the way around to Assiniboia? Well, let's take a look at how that turned out. Blue wall gone, except for the two, Fort White and Tuxedo at this point in time. We still have a couple of ridings outstanding where there's, I think there's 4 or 5 where it's less than 100 votes. I think 1 or 2 where it's less than 10 votes between top and bottom. But really, that's the story of the night, is the NDP did exactly what they had to do in Winnipeg, is taking that blue wall and smushing it.
As we're still counting the votes, David, and looking, you mentioned Waverley there, David Pankratz, I just saw him in the crowd. He's up by 59 votes. Not necessarily a done deal yet because that, of course, judicial recount can happen at 50 votes, but he's there, clearly not wanting to miss out on this party because it's obviously a historic night.
Let's take a look at these closest races. When we talk about close, like, this is what we're talking about, folks. A lead of 17 votes with 15 out of 17 polls reporting. The PC candidate ahead of Quinton Robinson in Brandon West. There are going to be recounts.
Wayne Balkin there ahead in Brandon West. In Dauphin, it's been flip-flopping.
This is flip-flop.
By 4, a lead of 4 for Ron Kostyshin of the NDP.
19 out of 23 polls reporting in Lagimodiere. NDP candidate Tyler Blaschko pulling ahead right now with a lead of 46 votes over PC incumbent Andrew Smith. These numbers have been going back and forth all night. It's just a small handful, in some cases less than a dozen votes in these ridings. McPhillips, the PC candidate, Sheila Rastall ahead of JD Gevden, the NDP candidate there, 47 votes. 16 out of 21 polls reporting. This is what's made it. This is why these numbers have still been floating all night between the NDP in terms of leading and elected.
And then, of course, the big news of the night.
I just looked it up. That's actually the 6th closest race by
Tuxedo
votes.
one.
Tuxedo, believe it or not. That's how close it is.
That's Heather Stefanson was leading by 305. She's already conceded. She's also already quit, saying she's not going to be MLA anymore. But that was and remains a tight race there.
In Waverley, one poll left to report. David Pankratz for the NDP party, currently ahead of PC incumbent John Reyes by 59 votes. It is tight.
Well, he got in his car quick. He was in that crowd there, so he's gunned it down from Waverley.
Marnie Larkin, the PC campaign manager, saying that she was going, we thought we'd ID'd the votes to win, and it's just a matter of getting the votes out. Now, there's going to be lots of looking at these sorts of things, but that negative ad campaign, it drives down voter support. That one little ad that leaked out saying put your head in a paper bag and vote PC, I'll bet that hurt the ground game of their own party, that on some of these close ones, David, the PCs drove their own vote.
David,
to say,
I'm
not voting for anybody.
I know many progressive conservatives that were really upset.
Let's take a look at the ridings of our party leaders now. We want to show you first in St. Boniface what happened with Liberal leader Wab Kinew falling to Robert Loisel by about 2,000 votes, 1,862 in Fort Rouge. Wab Kinew winning handily there.
Yeah, this is no surprise. Of course, he's also our next Premier designate of Manitoba. And this is the one you were referencing, David Tuxedo, with the fact that Heather Stefanson lead is 300 votes over NDP's Larissa Ashdown. Again, she's done. She said she's done. But this is at least about 1,000 votes less than she had the last time, and certainly definitely a much tighter race.
But the message that this sends to the progressive conservatives is huge. And this is a signal, I think, as far as Wab Kinew is concerned, turning the page in a new Manitoba. If you're the progressive conservatives right now, you're thinking, who's the future of this party? Is it in Steinbach with Gertzen, or is it in Winnipeg with Abi Khan? That's key. I think we're turning a major page in the political history of Manitoba.
David Akin, final thoughts?
Yeah, every campaign goes into things with objectives. Clearly for the NDP, absolutely mission accomplished in all respects. You won your majority government. For the progressive conservatives, certainly they wanted to hold on to government. I'll say it could have been worse, is probably the best at this point in time. It could have been worse. Heather Stefanson leaves the party on a bit of a high note in the sense that she was very gracious going out, but there's clearly some soul searching to go on there. I don't know that those campaign chairs are really the ones you want to look at for the next version of the PC party. And for the Liberal Party, you're right. You just said it. Is this the complete transformation of Manitoba politics? Because don't forget, in Saskatchewan, the Liberals long gone. In Alberta, the Liberals pretty much disappeared in the last Alberta. In BC, they just changed their name to get rid of Liberals in British Columbia. In the West, the Liberal brand, just the Liberal idea, it's really New Democrats or Conservatives. A Conservative Party. And that's a big change for the rest of the country to struggle with, that there's not a Liberal brand out here in this part of the world. You pick the orange team or you pick a blue team.
And Loren, your final thoughts tonight.
I think, when it comes out, I said this off the top, this is about all of us and it's about Manitoba, right? And so what we just talked about for the last 4 hours is really about people who want to shape our lives going forward. And if you think about the emotion of tonight that we saw from the three leaders who tried to put it all out there in the last 4 weeks, no matter how you feel about any of it, and I know a lot of us feel a lot of things, you have Dougal Lamont just saying that clearly this is not for me, I got to get out. You've got Heather Stefanson after 23 years saying, it's done for me, thank you, almost looking relieved and connecting in a way that perhaps we hadn't. And I think we need to leave it with Wab Kinew, of course, in a moment of, in years of efforts of reconciliation and reflection. We've just done something truly historic in our province. We can wait and see for the next couple of days before hospitals get built and all the rest. But I think emotion is the word of the night for me, because there was a lot of it in between all this back and forth.
Wab Kinew won because he stuck to the script. They ran a very tightly scripted election. They identified their voters early. They identified the issues, healthcare, healthcare, healthcare. They talked about addictions, talked about crime, talked about the economy a little bit, but really, really performed very well and beat this thing very early, yet still didn't get the majority that they were hoping to, very similar to 1999.
All right, and ended it all with a great mom moment. David Akin, it's been a pleasure. Richard Cloutier, Loren McNabb, thank you for being with us on Decision Manitoba tonight. The latest results are going to be online, globalnews.ca/Winnipeg. Thanks for watching tonight. 680 CJOB, bright and early tomorrow morning with Loren McNabb.
I'll be there, I guess.
Right. Thank you for being with us tonight. That was Decision Manitoba.
Battleground Winnipeg, the New Democrats at just under 50%.
Remember, 29 is that magic number for a majority.
We're really optimistic about things. We definitely ID'd enough vote to win tonight, so it's all a matter of did we get them all out?
That path to victory that Larkin outlined there is just not materialized.
Well, listen, this is not what the Tories were hoping to see at this point in the night.
Lonely place to be a Liberal tonight if these results hold.
It's cold comfort if your party is getting